I'd like to call the Londonderry Planning Board meeting to order. We have lots of exits here. If there's an emergency, please find the exit that's closest to where you're sitting and leave the building and wait until the officials tell us that it's safe to come back in. Could we please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you be so kind as to start us tonight, Rick?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Welcome.
The meeting is divided into two parts. Administrative board work is what we do first, and then we see new plans. So we have an extension request for Stonehenge subdivision.
Yes, we do, Madam Chairman. The applicant for...
Sorry, excuse me. Before we begin, I'd like to appoint, let's see, I'd like to appoint Maria for art and Scott for Lynn. Okay? Thank you. Well, you're first. I'm looking at the, when you... It's fine. You know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
Okay?
I'm fine, I just want to make sure. Not
Well-
Letha. It's fine.
I think it's who's been on the board the longest.
Right.
Okay, and you came before Letha, didn't you? No?
No, Letha.
Then how come you're
It's Letha. I'm actually the newest.
the newest, so forget
I'm
it.
still
You
the
can't
baby.
vote today. It's Letha then. We're
Yes,
appointing Letha.
that's why I'm saying it, yeah. Not that I don't want to, but,
All right, so I'm sorry. It'll be Letha who will be voting and Maria who will not. Okay? Thank you. All right, I'm sorry. Cynthia?
That's okay. We have an extension request from the law offices of Attorney Quinn for the Stonehenge subdivision Phase 2, and they're requesting another extension. And I actually just received an email this afternoon saying that things are looking good, that they really look to get their financing in the very near future to be able to move forward with finalizing this. So that's the request.
So how much are they, what kind of an extension were they asking for?
Another year.
So apparently not as quickly as one would think when you say very
Well,
quickly.
no, that's the typical extension that was for a year.
All right.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
That's
Madam
all right,
Chairman.
that's all right. Motion by Dana, second by Rick. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Chair votes affirmative. So that extension is for 1 year from today's date?
Yes.
For the meeting that will be held in April of 2013? Correct. Okay. All right, and then we do have another extension request, which I'd like to go ahead and take care of, right? The Elliott Systems Phase 4 and 5?
That's actually a continuance to
Oh, all
the
right,
next
so we should
meeting,
wait
so
for-
yeah, we'll wait.
Okay, all right. So we have approval and signing of minutes. I'll take them separate in case people were not here and they want to abstain. So could I have a motion for the March 7th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dana, second by Rick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, so that's Chris and John abstain. Chair votes affirmative. March 14th?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Second.
I won't be offended. It's okay. I'm not, you know.
Just trying to be polite.
Okay, so you know, we've got this going here, this rhythm, and I think this will be the night, so I'm not going to keep saying their names. You know who they are. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains?
Abstain.
John LaFerrier. And March 29th.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
So Scott, John was not here.
No, I was here.
The 29th, you were here,
I was
John.
here, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, Laura was not there. Anybody else? Dana? Okay. All right, thank you. Regional impact determinations.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. There are actually 3 items on the regional impact determination consideration this evening. The first, and we'll combine them because the first subdivision application for BC Construction American Tire Distributors is associated with the site plan for BC Construction for American Tire Distributors. And the bottom line is that staff recommends the project is not a development of regional impact. It doesn't meet any of the criteria established by Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Can you tell me, Cynthia, if any of these are found to be
No,
And
none of
having
them are.
regional
But
impact.
the second one for the shops at Londonderry, that actually was addressed on the July 13th agenda. And the third one is the change of a sign from one side of the lot to the other. And even though they're moving forward to a different date, we can find it to not have a regional impact. So
could we take them all at the same
Sure.
time is my question. All right,
think
so I
so.
would entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, make a motion that we find the 3 in the letter from Cynthia dated April 4th, 2012, find that BC Construction, Londonderry Land Development, and Elliott Health Systems Phase 4 and 5 are not of regional impact.
Second.
All those in favor? Any discussion? I guess I should ask that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, chair votes affirmative. Okay. Election of officers. So I'm told we can railroad Art right back into the chair position. I would entertain a motion to, unless anybody wants to change
Make a
the,
motion to keep the same slate.
I'll second that.
so it was motioned by Rick and seconded by Dana. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative. So we're still in office. Wouldn't it be nice if all elections were that fast and easy? Yeah. Okay, discussions with town staff. We'll start with you, Andre.
All right. Madam Chairman, I just want to update the board on the master plan effort, and that's the comprehensive master plan for the town of Londonderry. Last Monday, I believe, our town consultant, town planning and urban design, Brian Wright, was here, as well as Carol Wilbur, was present before the town council to update him on the master plan, just to give him an overview of the things that we're going to be looking at with regard to the master plan and solicit any input. And from there, we alerted the board to the fact that following that meeting on April 12th, we'll be holding a workshop meeting at the high school to get more information from the community with regard to the comprehensive master plan. All are encouraged to come and give us your input. It's imperative that we get your input because we cannot design a master plan without it. So I hope that you all come out for the April 12th meeting, which will take place at a workshop will take place at the high school, and then we have on March.
From what time to what time?
I believe that's 6 to 8.
All right, and what
PM.
other incentive do we have? Not only do you get to help us to plan this town, what other wonderful incentive do we have for them to come?
I
it's a
believe there's
potluck.
Thank you.
What that means is food. Glorious
Glorious food. You don't have to cook that night. Come, give us your opinion, and we'll feed you.
You have mead, too?
Was that? I wish.
Fortunately, it's a school.
Definitely get the information flowing pretty good if that happens. But that is April 12th. And then on May 31st through June 5th, we're having a charrette named Planapalooza, I should say. It's called a Planapalooza. We put our own spin to our master planning effort, and that is a week-long effort that we hope that people will participate in as well. You'll have an opportunity. Our consultants will take over this room for a week, and we'll open it up at the Lions Club Hall, which hopefully you'll come out and give us your input as to the direction Londonderry should be taking in the next 10, 15 years. We'll be taking that input, and they'll be working in this room with regarding putting those information down into maps and the things that people can digest. And also you have an opportunity to interact with our consultants as well with regard to other things that you think they should consider. And that culminates on June 5th with a presentation of all that effort, that week-long effort. And again, I hope you'll come out and participate. So we're going to be asking a lot from you, but I hope that you take advantage of this because it is vitally important that we get your input with regard to the direction of the community. Also, UNH Survey Center is undertaking a survey associated with the Comprehensive Master Plan. So if you see on your phone the extension 862 come up or the UNH Survey Center, please answer it because that's another means that we're looking to get input from you in the form of a survey. So we're hoping to have, and that's a 500 telephone survey that's being conducted. So if you see the UNH Survey Center or extension 862 come up, please answer it. Give us your opinion because all of that will be worked into the master plan in some shape or fashion. So.
Can I just
Lisa,
provide some
yeah.
statistics on the phone survey? As of Tuesday evening, tonight's Wednesday, right? Yeah, as of Tuesday evening, at about 5:30 before they began some of their calls, we had attempted to call nearly 4,000 phone numbers. But you have to remember that number is seems so big, but there's a lot of numbers in there that may not be eligible. They might find that they're not residents of Londonderry, they might find that they're businesses and whatnot. So anyway, so some more relevant statistics. They had a 33% refusal rate, which actually is pretty good when you think about it, and a 90% cooperation rate. 259 completes, which, we're trying to get to 500 sample sizes, Andre had mentioned.
Absolutely.
So, but we're well on our way. We started this process last Thursday Friday following our master plan committee meeting, and they've been working at it ever since and should be completed tomorrow.
Great.
Yep. So, looking forward to hearing those results.
And I believe there was also an article in today's Union Leader with regard to the master plan effort. So if you have a chance to read that article as well, April Gomet, that also describes exactly what the process is going to be and the dates that I spoke about.
You all set?
I am all set.
Okay. Cynthia, John?
Nothing this evening.
I think he said it all, so
Great.
let's get rolling.
All right, moving right along. Do you have any objection if we move these guys forward? No? Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so can we move Shops of Londonderry to the front of the line, please?
Are they in the room? Oh, yes, you're ready for you. Yeah.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman. First, again, there are 3 outstanding checklist items. Those are, again, prior to plan acceptance. Item number 1, the applicant is requesting a waiver to section 3.05, 3.06, 3.07, 418B of the subdivision regulations, and item 10.7 of the subdivision application checklist. The applicant has not provided utility clearance letters because there's no construction related to the subdivision application. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the utility clearances were provided with the associated site plan application. Item number 2, the applicant has requested a waiver to item 10.4 of the checklist to provide a traffic report. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the traffic report was submitted with the associated site plan application. And lastly, the applicant is requesting a waiver to items 7.2B, D, F, and G of the checklist to provide utility services to serve the lot 45-3. Staff recommends, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm reading the wrong one.
He's on the one we thought we were on, so we're going to have to
Sorry.
back up.
Hold on a minute.
Here you go, John.
Sorry about that.
You were probably wondering what we were talking about.
We're pretty close.
Subdivision. There we go. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, checklist items. Yeah, there are 8 outstanding checklist items which have associated waiver requests. Assuming the board grants a waiver, staff recommends the application be accepted as complete. Item number 1, topographic plan. The applicant has requested a waiver to section 4.01C of the regulations requiring the topographic plan to be 1 inch equals 40 feet, where the plan is presented at 1 inch equals 50 feet. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the topographic information shown on the associated site plan is at a scale of 1 inch equals 40 feet. Item 2, applicant is requesting a waiver to section 3.08. And item 10.3 of the checklist requiring a drainage report. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the drainage report was submitted with the associated site plan. Item 3, requesting a waiver to section 3.09 F2 of the regs, and item 7.3A 11 of the checklist requiring the driveway locations be shown for each lot. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the driveway locations were submitted with the associated site plan. Fourth waiver request was to section 3.07, 416B2, and 418B of the regs, requiring utility clearance letters or proposed sewer service information. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the utility clearance letters and sewer service information was submitted with the associated site plan. The fifth waiver request was the section 3.06, 416B4, and 418B of the regs, requiring the provision of a utility clearance letter or proposed water service information. Again, staff recommends granting the waiver because the utility clearance letters and water service information was submitted with the associated site plan. Sixth waiver request was the section 3.05, 416B7, and 418B, requiring utility clearance letters and indication of the proposed utility service information. Again, staff recommends granting the waiver because the utility clearance letters and utility service information was submitted with the associated site plan. Seventh waiver was section 417A27, 2, 3, and 4 for the subdivision regs, to provide existing pipe size, pipe type, size, and inverts of the existing sewer system, drainage system, and existing utilities. Staff recommends granting because sufficient information is provided in order to determine the pipe lengths and slopes. And lastly, they've requested a waiver to section 412C9 of the regs, to include cross easements between the new lots for access, drainage, utilities, and maintenance. Staff recommends granting the waiver to this requirement for acceptance only, because the cross-access easements will be provided as a condition of the subdivision plan approval in association with the final site plan. So that while there are 8 waiver requests, a lot of them are provided in the subsequent site plan that we're going to hear after we hear the subdivision.
Okay,
Madam Chairman,
yes.
make a motion that we grant the applicant's request for the 8 waivers as outlined in their February 1st, 2012 letter, and staff's recommendation that all waivers be granted.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes affirmative. So the waivers are granted.
Now you have to accept it.
Madam Chairman, move that we accept the application for Shops of Londonderry
Do I have a
as
second?
complete.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes affirmative, and your application is accepted. So who will be presenting?
I'd first like to say a couple of words. My name is Michael Di Giuseppe. I'm the developer and applicant of the property. I think I've been before this board before. We've worked extensively with the development committee for the town, and I'd like to first compliment them, Andre and John and Janos and Cynthia, who recently joined the town, on the professional way in which they handled our application. It has been a very enlightening process for both of us, I think. And what we have today before you is a culmination of all the work that we've done over the course of the last year, I think it's been. And I'm going to basically turn it over to my civil engineer, who will present the plans. Also with me tonight is my traffic engineer, Vanessa Associates, and be glad to do the presentation on the off-site work. Just for a matter of information, this parcel that we are proposing, a shopping center, was a parcel that was looked at by the town in previous years. It was designated as a retail development site, and we followed, I think, all the regulations that are required in order to develop the shopping center at that location, including Heritage Committee approval of the design, and then extensive review by not only the in-house people at the town level, but also your consultant, Stantec, who did a review also of every aspect of the development process. We're excited about the opportunity to build a shopping center in the town, and we look forward for presenting the application tonight. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Brad Mesquita with Tight & Bond. He's a civil engineer, and after that, we'll have a small presentation by our traffic engineer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Brad Mesquita from Ty and Bond. The subdivision application before you is on the plans you see up on the wall behind you. It's existing of two parcels. One parcel is 27.6 acres, and then there's a small parcel directly adjacent to Route 28, which is 0.34 acres. As part of this project, those two parcels are being merged together into one big parcel, and then we are subdividing that large parcel into two parcels, which you see as Lot 51 and Lots 51-9. Lot 51 is 11.8 acres, and Lot 51.9 is 16.04 acres. Also, as part of the subdivision, there is a minor right-of-way realignment shown along Vista Ridge, which is in conjunction with the following application for the site plan that we'll talk about after. For the subdivision application, that's all we have for presentation.
So,
Madam Chairman, members of the board, we have 4 design review items. Item number 1, easement plans indicate the existing drainage easements across the lots will be abandoned, but it is unknown how the existing flow from the town's drainage system or the upstream abutting lots will now be addressed. The town's drainage system and upstream abutting lots currently have flows to the existing detention basin located upon the subject lots via the existing easements. In addition, we note portions of the town's existing drainage system are currently located within portions of the drainage easements to be abandoned. Our understanding that some of the easements would change under the proposed site plan, but no information is provided on the plans or in the notes. We're requesting that they provide additional information that addresses the current drainage flows on the plans to explain and clarify the proposed changes to the easements, meeting the approval of the town. Item 2, we're requesting that they provide the owner's signature on the subdivision plans and all applicable sheets. Item 3, the project is located along a significant portion of Vista Ridge Drive, and the applicant is proposing improvements to the roadway to serve the new lots as part of the off-site improvements for the separate site plan application. And lastly, we're requesting that the applicant confirm the assessor's DRC comments have been addressed with the assessing department. That's all I had.
okay, do we have some discussion by the board? I'll go through. Chris?
So the image we've got up there right now is the subdivision that you're proposing. What's the current state of affairs? Do we have an image of that, Cynthia?
We do.
Cynthia, if you have that one of that PDF I sent you over this morning, it's all condensed onto one sheet, might be easier to read.
Yeah, I don't know which sheet it was, Brad.
If she has to pull up the thumbnail, I'll be able to point right to it. I think I just saw it go by. Yeah, the one in the middle, top, right there, yep. There we go. If you can rotate it clockwise 90 degrees, counterclockwise 90, it'll be in the same configuration we just looked at.
I'd like to, but
Okay, we can talk about it in this
Yeah. Not on this computer, I can't.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's the existing lots now, Brad?
The two big green parcels are the existing lot, and over on the right-hand side, which is Route 28, you see a small little green rectangle. That is the separate lot. So basically, you have two existing lots, that little tiny one, and then the rest of the parcels. So one lot is this little one here, and then the remainder of everything in green is
So
the
the
parcel.
the remainder is the other parcel, so you're merging that small green area into it and then subdividing down the center.
Correct.
Okay. Just a question, looking at the plan that you've got in the next piece that
Sure,
we're talking
yeah,
about.
jumping ahead,
It
sure.
looks like that's straddling the two lots then.
Say that again?
The design that you have, the plan that you're going to propose afterwards, looks like that's straddling the two
Absolutely does.
proposed lots, okay?
That's correct. It was strategically located along the main entrance.
Okay. Just questioning why? What was the rationale behind doing that division that way?
Couple different reasons. One had to do with some of your local regulations as far as site plan that we can talk to in the next article. And then there was some financing issues that made it easier, on that side.
Okay, but right now it's currently all one lot, correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right,
I'm all set. Same here.
you're always set.
Dana? No?
Sorry,
Is this the appropriate time to bring up? I see something else in our packet here from Deb Levins from the Conservation Commission. Does that apply to this one?
That's not appropriate at this time.
At this time,
That's
it's
part
for
of
the
the
next
site
one.
plan.
Okay. Okay, because my question would relate to that. All right.
I have nothing about this.
John, you talked about drainage,
Yep.
and how we're not sure how drainage is actually going to be affected in this particular instance.
Well, we've had numerous discussions, John, and again, we've got a good handle on what's going to happen. But again, in order for us to make sure that it's cast in stone, we elaborate it on the comment. That way, again, we don't lose that comment. And again, because it's always a work in progress.
Right.
So again, conceptually, I've agreed with how Brad is going to handle the stormwater out there. But again, until everything is cast in stone, there's no reason for him to finalize all those easements and everything.
Okay.
And if things move around, it's kind of a waste of time.
So if I recall, I've been by there a couple of times, the Vista sits up on a hill,
Yep,
and does that water run down into that basin there?
correct.
And the intention there from an elevation standpoint is that the back lot is really going to be a wet area, and the front lot's going to be where your retail shops are?
It will, and it'll be readily apparent during the next project.
So are you going to be blowing that out to kind of come to elevation?
We are.
So-
There's a kind of a cut and fill going on.
So we'll have some type of catch basin in the backside?
Correct.
Correct.
Right, and that still needs to be determined then, right?
No, that's pretty well finalized. Again, it's the water that's coming off of Vista Ridge as well as the development that traverses that property. And they've agreed they're going to give everybody flowage rights. They maintain that drainage system. They allow us to discharge our water through their system.
Okay, so it's a right-of-way more than anything else?
Correct.
Got it,
Yeah,
okay.
we call it flowage rights. Yep.
Scott?
I'm all set, right?
Because this is the lot mergers, what we're talking about right now, is it appropriate to have the public, or should we wait for the site plan?
I think, as long as the public understands, all they're really doing is again, if you understood what Brad says, there's basically 3 lots out there. What they need to do is consolidate one of the lots, and then they're going to chop it up in half again. So that's all this plan is all about. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty as far as what they're going to be building in a little while. But again, in order for them to do the development, they need to subdivide this lot. They need to consolidate and re-subdivide. So unless somebody has a question on the subdivision.
Does anyone have a question on the subdivision? Okay.
Then my question is standing water down in Perkins Road. And 3/4 of the year, there's water there. Is that being considered as part of the water plan?
The water in, by,
You've talked about the sewer.
it's all
and the
stormwater.
drainage And all that.
Yeah,
Above and beyond that, the standing water that goes from several hundred yards up Perkins Road, right underneath Vista Ridge, and down toward 28.
Yeah.
That is water in wetlands 10 months out of the year.
yeah,
Has
that,
that been
yeah,
considered?
yeah, and you'll see that as part of the site development. Yeah, they're not impacting that wetland, that drainage that's coming, the drainage that's coming from the south that goes beneath Vista Ridge, they're not playing with that.
Sir, could you tell us your name?
Yeah. Bill Sibley, S-I-B-L-E-Y, from Vista Ridge.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion, bring it back to the board.
Madam Chairman, make a motion that we conditionally approve the plans for the subdivision.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative. Okay, so you are, the subdivision is conditionally approved.
You can give me a minute to reorganize.
So for you in the audience who've never been to one of these meetings before, we're clicking away up here, not looking at baseball scores or whatever. We have everything that you see up here on our screens here, so that we're not turning around and keeping the look up here. So please don't think we're not paying attention, because we are. Although I wonder, no, I'm kidding.
Sox are losing.
Good for them, right?
Get on Thursday.
You're in plan.
They open up tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow at 1. Who's counting?
Take another day off.
Okay, you all set, John? Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep. They will accept it first. Madam Chairman, members of the board, there are 2 outstanding checklist items which associated waiver requests. Assuming the board grants the waivers, staff recommends the application be accepted as complete. Item number 1, the applicant is requesting waiver to section 312 and 415 in site plan regs, and item 9 of the site plan application and checklist, requiring the submission of building elevations for the separate bank and restaurant uses proposed. Staff supports granting the waiver for acceptance only. The applicant shall provide the building elevations at the time the restaurant and bank are proposed to be constructed for review and approval by the Heritage Commission. Second waiver request is to section 414A19 and B.1, the site plan regs, and item 61S and 62A of the checklist, requiring the provision of existing pipe lengths and slopes of the existing drainage system and existing sewer system per the regulations. Staff supports granting the waiver because staff recommends granting the waiver because sufficient information is provided in order to determine the pipe lengths and slopes.
I think you should have read it as written,
Yeah.
personally. Okay, so do I have a motion on the
Madam
waivers?
Chairman, make a motion that we accept, based on staff's recommendation, we grant the 2 waivers requested by the applicant.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
Madam Chairman, move that we, well, it's already accepted as complete.
No, now
Okay,
you
never
don't
mind.
accept it.
You have to accept it.
We need to accept it as
You do have to
complete.
accept it as complete.
Oh, okay.
We're not approving.
Madam Chairman, move that we accept the application as complete.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative. So the application is accepted as being complete. You have the floor.
Very good. The plan you see before you is actually the proposed development. To get everybody kind of located, we've rotated a little bit on you. On the left-hand side is Route 28. On the bottom and right is Vista Ridge. Perkins is actually off the sheet to the top. As I guess most of you are probably well aware, the elevation between Vista Ridge down to the top of the page, which is the lower land, we have an elevation drop of anywhere from 40 to 70 feet. It's a fairly steady fall down to the wetlands out back. As you can see, we have shown you in this khaki color up at the top. That's all the existing wetland. That is the area that the butter correctly pointed out is the stormwater drainage that comes from well to the south, well beyond Vista Ridge and farther south, travels underneath Vista Ridge, comes through this wetland system, and then discharges underneath 28, which eventually goes underneath the park and ride and on. As you can see, as part of this site plan development, we are proposing retail development in the mixed-use commercial zone. We're proposing two large buildings. One is the retail section on the left here, and then there's another retail building on the right. And as John had pointed out earlier, there's a restaurant pad as an out parcel out on the front right, and we've shown a bank pad over to the left. The site is proposed to be serviced by 3 access drives. We have a main drive right in the center of the development, right in this area. There is a right in, right out on the northerly end of the development, and then there's a back entrance over behind the L-shaped retail. As I think the board has already kind of hinted at, due to the sloping of the existing topography out there, we are going to terrace the development into the hillside, which means because we're falling off from the roadway down to the wetland, the buildings will actually sit a little bit lower than the road, and then we have proposed a retaining wall along the rear of the parcel to create the building pad for the site, as well as limit any disturbance we need to do beyond the development into the buffers in the wetlands themselves. As part of the project, we've proposed a total of 574 spaces, including 20 accessible spaces. The site is being proposed to be serviced by sewer, water, electric, gas, all being tied to either on Vista Ridge, and one sewer connection will actually tie to a stub that's existing on the south side of Route 28. John had pointed out that stormwater drainage has been a big issue with this particular site, and looked at pretty extensively. I think we're up to 4 or 5 different engineers all reviewing it. The site will be contained in a closed stormwater system being discharged towards the rear of the buildings. We have 3 different areas that will be mitigating runoff. We have 2 stormwater ponds, one here, one over here, as well as a third area, which is a rain garden here in the middle. It was pointed out, and correctly so, that the existing Vista Ridge condominium complex on the west side of Vista Ridge all discharges right through this site via some existing riprap swales. And that was all approved as part of that development. Since we will be building on top of those existing swales, we needed to accommodate that stormwater flow, which picks up a lot of Vista Ridge as well as the condo development. We'll be proposing to pick that up in a closed drainage system, and we do bring it around to the rear of the site and discharge to the larger wetland out in the rear. As part of our drainage design, we have worked with certainly John's office, Stantec, NHDOT, and NHDES, all reviewing drainage as part of the project. Certainly, we have proposed quite a bit of landscaping, although at the scale that you see on the drawing, it's fairly difficult to make out the individual trees and plantings, but we certainly have planted extensively on both Vista Ridge, interior to the parking lot, and on the rear to screen, as we've had many discussions locally and with town staff as well. I guess our review process started back in June 2011 when you formally submitted, I guess informally submitted for a design review. We've gone through, I believe, 4 sets of review comments, so I think we've worked out most of the kinks. We were before the Concom back in July. We had 3 meetings with the Concom. There was a wetland impact on the site that basically sits underneath this building right here. There was about 9,000 square feet of wetland impact, which the Concom did approve of, signed our application, and we actually do have our wetlands permit from DES already in hand. The Concom did make a negative recommendation on the work within the wetland buffer, which is all the work from locating our detention ponds and stormwater systems out in the back, just beyond the edge of the pavement out in this area. We also were before the Heritage Commission in January, which they approved the conceptual elevations of the two larger buildings, as well as getting a reapproval from that same board in January of this year. And as John had pointed out, as one of the waiver requests, the elevations for the restaurant and the bank pad were not submitted at that time, since there was no specific tenant known, and we made the recommendation that we would come back before them once a tenant was known. Quick update on where we are on permits. As I had mentioned, we do have our wetlands permit in hand. DOT, I'll let Giles speak to that permit as far as the off-site improvements. Sewer connection permit is in the under town's review at this time. AOT, alteration of terrain with NHDES, is we expect a permit. We were hoping to have it by today, but did not receive it this afternoon, so any day we expect that one. And there will be 2 dam permits that are being applied for and are pending. One for one of our stormwater ponds out back, and one for the existing wetland out back, which has an existing berm that was built as part of the Vista Ridge project. We'll need a permit for that as well. With that, Giles, if you want to speak quickly to the off-site improvements, I think he can give you an idea what's going on Vista Ridge.
I take my seat.
Good evening. For the record, Giles Ham with Vanessa & Associates. And we've actually been working on this project for about 1.5 years now. I've had several meetings with town staff and the state in reviewing this project. Route 28 itself, as you know, has been under improvements, and there's interchange improvements as well, has adequate capacity to accommodate this project. So we've really just focused our effort on Vista Ridge Road in this area to upgrade it and widen it to accommodate the traffic affiliated with this project. In this area here, there's about a 75-foot right turn lane today coming down the northbound direction on Vista Ridge Road. We're going to widen that area out to about 250 feet, where there'll be 2 lanes to come down the hill to accommodate existing traffic as well as the traffic from this project. Coming into the site here, there's an exclusive left turn lane designed to accommodate the turning traffic, and in addition to the through lane. So we're basically widening about 1,000 feet of the roadway in this area here. It's been reviewed extensively by your consultant and the state. The state's approved these changes, as well as your consultant. As far as the permit we need from the state, it's kind of unique that this is actually a driveway permit. So while the state's approved it, the town actually has to file for the driveway permit modification for this project. And in a nutshell, that's really it briefly. These roadway improvements will accommodate the project and have been approved by both the state and your consultant and staff.
Thank you. John? Cynthia?
Go through some of the conditional use permits and additional waivers.
I'm going to start with the additional waivers. There are 9 other waivers in addition to the 2 that were already approved. The first one, the applicant requested a waiver to section 3.11 G12, requiring the provision of 8% minimum interior landscaping for parking areas located on the side of buildings. Staff supports granting the waiver because the parking fields on the building sides are small areas, and
Right here.
the interior landscape areas provided in the front of the buildings exceeds the minimum requirements.
That's this area here.
Number 2, the applicant requested a waiver to section 311G13, requiring the provision of 5% minimum interior landscaping for the areas behind the building. And staff supports granting the waiver because the parking fields are linear, not visible from the public right-of-way, and are screened by the wooded wetland area on the east side of the development. Number 3, the applicants requested a waiver to section 311G3, requiring the provision of a minimum of 1 deciduous tree for every 15 parking spaces as part of the internal parking lot landscaping. Staff supports granting that waiver because the waiver is for a deficit of 1 tree in the rear, but overall they've provided 43 where only 38 are required, and that's demonstrated by the chart that is on the landscape plan. Waiver number 4, the applicants requested a waiver to section 311G5 of the site plan regulations, requiring provision of a minimum of 1 deciduous tree for every 20 feet of parking spaces and 1 tree for every 50 feet of parking lot perimeter where the screening is required. The applicant provided 31 trees where 73 are required. Staff is supporting granting this waiver because the parking lot is 10 feet from up to 10 feet once you go past the initial entrance, the main entrance to the site, to almost 30 feet as you come up around the corner above the parking lot. And any trees planted down there are really not going to be visible from the street or provide any sort of street tree program, so it really, I think they have a number of parking lot trees along the perimeter that sort of satisfy that requirement and provide some shade.
And just to build upon that, again, this area right here is a significant grade difference between the roadway and where this parking lot, I think, is about 20 or 30 feet. And therefore, by putting trees, additional trees here, nobody would ever see it. We'll see the trees because of the grade difference. So we supported the supplementing the landscaping along here and on here, and obviously back here. But on this area, it just didn't make sense to put something there that you wouldn't be able to see.
Right. But the question that I would have is that the only reason that you plant trees?
No, you plant trees to ameliorate the impacts of the weather, right. In this case, where the perimeter parking lot trees are contemplated or are required or desired and required because along the perimeter, generally you want to make that parking lot kind of go away. You want to soften
No, I
that
understand
edge.
it's for aesthetics. I appreciate that it's
Right.
for aesthetics. But is that, given that there's a difference in the grade and doesn't a tree serve as a way to absorb some of the runoff of the rain?
Well, wait, if you look at this area, I mean, even though there will be a lawn here, which will, again, absorb some of the very moisture that you're talking about, rain and so on and so forth, you do have trees here, you do have internal parking lot trees that meets our requirements. Is this, in our opinion, is thought that to put more trees in an area which it might not serve the purpose of what you're talking about, and there will be a lawn there. I mean, even though on this plan it's just shown as white, but this is all lawn right here, and then there will be the trees transitioning to the trees that will occupy the parking lot and the perimeter of the parking lot.
Planting trees on a 3-to-1 slope is a little bit more challenging too, which is pretty much the prevailing condition around that whole curve. At the bottom of the slope, behind the edge of the parking lot, that's all the snow storage area, so to plant within the first 10 feet of that space is problematic because those trees every year are going to get crushed, and so then we're into the steepest part of the slope. Unfortunately, at the top of the slope, we've got an easement, and that would be an easement to the town for slopes to maintain Vista Ridge in the event that any work ever needed to be done. So it's really not ideal to plant many trees in that area. And I think it's at least 20 feet wide right now based on a previous approval.
Right.
That could change, and that's one of the easements that's got to be worked out. prior to the plan getting signed. The other problem with putting a lot of vegetation up there is that you have to maintain a reasonable sight distance coming around that curve. So again, we're in the middle of the steepest part of the slope for the entire length until we get to that first intersection, so.
Okay, so that was number 4?
Trust me, we had a lot of angst about it as well, but that's the position that we have. And so and that's related to the 5th request, where they're required to provide 50% vertical opacity along the parking lot, and they've provided 30% along the lower part. And in granting that waiver, which staff is supporting, it's because they've already provided 5 trees in that area. There's a significant drainage swale that runs in at least the first 2/3 of it, which is really not appropriate for trees. And then for the rest of it, we have the bank building that would block your views into the greater part of that parking lot. So I think I'm going to leave it at those waivers and kind of allow the board to digest that, because that's all the ones that have to do with landscaping. The rest are more engineering related.
Okay.
I'll continue.
Sure.
Applicant is requesting a waiver to section 3.087H of the site plan regs, which requires a provision of a manhole and catch basin depths not to exceed 18 feet in height. Staff supports granting the waiver because of the significant grade changes from the top of the retaining walls to the outlet structures. As Brad indicated, again, this site will basically be terraced. We have Vista Ridge, there'll be a large slope down to the building area to the east, and then there'll be a large retaining wall along the wetlands down to the wetlands. So again, there is a significant grade difference. So again, requiring them to have 18-foot minimum depth, it just can't be done. Second request was a waiver to section 3.07G3 of the site plan regs, requiring a minimum of 3 feet of cover over the pipes. There are 3 catch basins and 5 catch basins located off-site where the minimum cover is not provided. The applicant has provided reinforced concrete pipe. In addition, the applicant is proposing a 6-inch under drain within the rain garden. Staff supports granting the waiver due to the required placement and utility crossings, and the applicant is again proposing to use reinforced concrete pipe in these locations. Item 8, applicant has requested a waiver to section 3.07G2 of the regs regarding the minimum and maximum permitted slope pipe velocities. Drainage report indicates 7 pipes will have velocities in excess of 10 feet per second. In addition, the table indicates the minimum velocity of 2 feet per second is not achieved in one location. Staff supports granting the waiver because of the insufficient flows to achieve the minimum velocity and due to the proposed site grades and limiting the depth of the proposed piping that impacts the maximum velocities. Item 9, the applicant has requested a waiver to the typical roadway section in Exhibits D5 and R101 of the subdivision regs. They're proposing to alter the existing Vista Ridge Drive roadway embankment within the town's existing roadway slope easement from a typical cut section to an embankment slope downward similar to a fill-type section. The proposed grading design provided for a 3-to-1 slope with guardrail in lieu of the 4-to-1 embankment. Slope required for this type of roadway. Section is indicated in the regulations. The town's typical roadway section, in the town's typical roadway section. Staff supports granting the waiver in order to limit the required side slope of the roadway, and the applicant is proposing guardrail to be installed along portions of Vista Ridge where required. Cynthia, I'll let you deal with the conditional use permits.
Okay. There are actually 4 different conditional use permits to be considered this evening. The first one is related to retaining walls that were constructed within the building setbacks of the property adjacent to the abutting 60-2 along Vista Ridge Drive and along Rockingham Road with wall heights varying up to 20 feet. In addition, the site plan indicates the proposed restaurant will be within the 60-foot front setback along Vista Ridge Drive. The applicant's requesting a conditional use permit to section 2.4.5.1 of the zoning ordinance to construct these structures in the setbacks under this application. Staff recommends the conditional use permit because there is only a small corner of the building that ends up in the setback, and this is after the first 10 feet of frontage is dedicated for future road widening along Vista Ridge Drive. And then the retaining walls, for the most part, occur within the common boundary of the development subdivision. The second one is the applicant's design does not provide landscaping to enclose the proposed lot per section 2.4.5.3.1 of the zoning ordinance. They're requesting a conditional use permit to that section for the proposed common driveway. Staff recommends granting the conditional use permit because the area of concern is located along the common driveway and the boundary between the newly subdivided lots, which separate the development. And the applicant has provided adequate landscaping along either side of that driveway within the available green space. Item number 3. The applicant does not provide the minimum required parking in accordance with section 31010 of the zoning ordinance and as identified on sheet C2A. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to reduce the number of proposed parking spaces under this application. Staff recommends granting the conditional use permit because the applicant has demonstrated that the spaces provided adequately address the parking needs for this use based on the number of parking spaces that are needed in a similarly owned development. Parking will be shared between both of the lots as part of the single shopping center development. And the last one is for the Conservation Overlay District, where in a couple of places, near the back of the lot.
Right here,
And Andre's pointing those out.
right here, and right here.
They are encroaching in into the buffer. The Conservation Commission did not recommend approval of the conditional use permit because they found it didn't meet the intent of the COD. The Commission did, however, note in their notice that the plan proposes to minimize the impact of the development, and the applicant designed a created wetland area adjacent to the existing wetland that would have a similar equivalent functional value to the wetlands and buffers being disturbed. Staff recommends granting the conditional use permit for the reasons stated and because the two small impacts are, for the most part, on the outer half of the buffer, and the applicant has received a wetland permit from New Hampshire DES. So that's the 4 conditions and the 9 additional waivers.
And I'll finalize it with the design review comments. Applicant, item number 13, the applicant has not provided all project permits associated with the proposed development. We recommend the applicant obtain all project permits, indicate the approval numbers in note 10 on the cover sheet, and provide copies of all permits for the planning division filed in accordance with the regs. Item 14, the proposed project design includes removal of portions of the existing Vista Ridge Drive drainage system, associated drainage swales located in the existing easements which flow to the existing detention basin on the site. Same comment as before, John. I'll stop. Item 15, we recommend the applicant address the following relative to the grading and drainage and erosion control plans. The revised grading design in this submission includes additional grading along the existing dam embankment of the existing detention pond and construction of a new 10-foot emergency spillway. It appears there is an existing emergency spillway located in the westerly embankment and west of the existing outlet and near the proposed retaining wall. We're requesting that they explain and clarify what elevation does this existing spillway operate at, and will the proposed embankment grading affect it, and is a new spillway actually necessary? Item B, the revised grading design in this submission includes additional grading along the existing dam embankment towards abutting lot 54, but does not appear to maintain and provide the same embankment width of 10 feet along the abutting lot. Please review and revise accordingly. Item C, the revised drainage structure table does not include PDMH 16. We're requesting that they update the table to include the structure indicated on the plan for proper construction. Item 16, the landscape plan, sheet D5, does not appear to indicate all the proposed grading consistent with the latest grading plan for the area, sheet C3A. Under the latest design, the applicant has indicated that a dam permit has been submitted for this detention basin, but this plan indicates proposed plants will be placed in the proposed dam embankment. That is generally not recommended. We're requesting that they verify the proposed plantings in the embankment are acceptable to the DES Dam Bureau. Item 17, we're recommending the applicant provide the owner's signature on all applicable sheets. Item 18, we're requesting the applicant address the following relative to the drainage report. Item A, updated analysis does not appear to address the current emergency overflow spillway depicted on the westerly side of the basin at Pond A2, which, as shown on the plan prepared by Byrd in 2001. Item B, the applicant's proposed rain garden detention basin analysis indicates storage volume below the outlet invert, which is typically not allowed by the town. We're requesting that they update to eliminate the volume below the outlet invert and indicate compliance with the regulations is achieved, that being no increase in the rate of runoff as typically required by the town. Item C, the applicant's pond summary is now included in the report that shows a proposed 50-year peak elevation of 324.79, which does not provide the minimum 12 inches of freeboard above the 50-year elevation as required by the regs. We recommend the applicant, the proposed modifications to the dam embankment include providing the minimum freeboard to the 50-year elevation of 12 inches as required by the regs. Item D, we're requesting that they update the pre-development drainage area plan to indicate and label the location of subcatchment 2236. Item 19, update the site distance plan as proposed at proposed site drive number 3, sheet 27 of the off-site improvements plans to include the existing guardrail in the easterly direction. Item 20, the project is located along a significant portion of Vista Ridge Drive, and the applicant is proposing improvements to the roadway to serve the proposed development as part of the off-site improvements for the site plan application. We recommend the applicant verify the proposed off-site improvements are acceptable to the Department of Public Works. And lastly, we recommend the applicant confirm the assessor's DRC comments have been addressed with the assessor. So there are a number of board action items. Again, the applicant is requesting 15 waivers. The site plan regulations is noted in the list dated March 15th, 2012. Again, 2 of which the board has acted upon. Item number 2, the applicant is requesting 2 conditional uses to the zoning ordinance. General standards of the MUC sub-district is noted in the list dated March 15th, 2012. Item 3, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a deviation in the number of parking spaces required under the section 31010 and is allowed under section 31011 and 31012 of the zoning ordinance, as noted in the letter dated February 15th, 2012, and a list dated March 15th, 2012. Item number 4, the applicant is proposing improvements within the CO district that will require conditional use approval by the planning board. There are 3 last board informational items. The applicant has obtained a variance for driveway widths that exceed the maximum 24 feet per section 310.5 of the zoning ordinance. Item 2, the project is associated with a separate subdivision plan application that was concurrently submitted to the board. And lastly, the project proposes widening and turning lane improvements to Vista Ridge Drive, including at the intersection with Rockingham Road relative to the subject site. That's it.
Thank you, John. So I'm going to go to the board first. I started that side before, so in Art's, way of doing things, I'll just start at the other end. Scott, you have anything for us? Any questions?
I'm just a little concerned about the whole drainage, but I know that'll be addressed more like with the site plan. But I know how steep Vista Ridge is, and a lot of it's natural runoff. But I don't understand where they're doing a tiered plateau type division. But I don't know, it's just a concern. But I know the town is. I mean, I know with my site plans and things like that they're very diligent, so I'm sure it'll all be addressed. But that is a big concern as far as the natural runoff, where the water's going to dissipate. Just a comment.
Yep.
That's all. It's not a question.
John?
Yeah, a couple of things. It was mentioned earlier that the DES had made a negative comment. Could you tell us what that negative comment was?
DES did not have a negative comment.
I thought you said they had one negative comment.
Conservation.
Conservation had the one negative comment, okay, which was stated in this document? Okay. On the granting of the waivers for the percentages of interior landscaping and so forth, you have 8%, 5%, What are those being reduced to? 0?
No.
Definitely not zero.
I think you actually showed on the table, don't you, Brad?
It says in waivers 1 and 2 that there's an 8% minimum interior landscaping for parking areas located on the sides of the building, and then in 2, it also says there's a 5% minimum interior. It doesn't state what it's going to be reduced to. So theoretically, I could reduce that to 0 unless stated.
It's definitely not going to zero.
Well, while you're doing that, the other question that I have is, you had allocated a number of parking spaces for the project, and you've requested a waiver for the number of parking spaces. How many parking spaces are required for a site like this if you didn't need a waiver? So how many are we asking, how many are they getting, and how many would be required for a site of this size?
Okay. We'll start with the landscape.
Okay, good. Before I start flipping around.
In the front of the property, it's required to be, I'm sorry, the north side and the south side is required to have 8% landscaping. On the north side, they have 7% on lot 51 and 1.1% on lot 51-9, which is the taller lot. So that would be the edge. I can't point to it, but the other,
The north
complete
edge.
opposite end. The north end is, yes, up there.
So basically, the 8% falls to just under 8%, and the 5% falls to about 1.1, 1.2?
I don't think that was said correctly.
No, that was just for 8%.
In two different
On the
areas.
south
Two different areas,
side,
okay.
on the south side on lot 51, they have almost 10%. And on the lot 51-9, it's almost 5%, so it goes from 8 to almost 5. And then it was only applicable for the 5% on lot 51, and they have 0. So that's that.
Show me again, please.
This is lot 51, this is lot 51-9 here.
No, just the opposite.
Opposite way. This is lot 51, and this is 51-9. Thank you. Sorry about that.
I think the 5% areas are the,
The, to the east,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so which one goes to 0?
the one on the right.
That's just along the building, correct?
Because, and you said that's because there's the trees across.
Trees are here.
All the stuff over there.
Right.
They're not adding trees, there's existing.
No, understood. I'm trying to understand why we, what the numbers are relative and why. Okay, that's fine. And what would you come up for the parking?
On lot 51, 291 were required, where 240 on that particular lot were provided. And on lot 51-9, 307 required, 334 provided.
It's a shift.
So you just shifted.
It basically shifts it with the cross easements.
So total required, I'm sorry, I don't have the math going. Total required versus how many you're
If we added
getting?
both lots together,
Yeah.
which we did not do, but do some quick math here.
598 are required.
598 are required, and how many are they getting?
And you're giving
574.
So 20.
Just shy then, so.
They were shy 24.
24, and then you're reducing the amount of landscaping that has to be between the parking spaces as well, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm sorry?
That is correct.
So in order to get the maximum amount of parking that we can get in there, you're asking for a grant of waiver on the reduction of the landscaping as well as the reduction of the amount of parking required.
The applicant is, yes.
The applicant is. And you're approving that, is what I'm saying.
I'm not approving
Or
it.
you're asking for the grant of it.
They're
I'm not asking for the waiver
recommending
either, the applicant is.
Okay.
We're supporting it.
We're supporting
it.
the
Okay, thank
waiver
you.
because
My
there's
language.
sufficient parking, yes.
And I believe it's a conditional use approval that we're seeking, and as the board knows, the reason why we have that provision in our regulations is that we wanted to get away from having too many parking lots or more parking than's required, as opposed to if they can demonstrate that the parking they're in need is less than what's required, and they can demonstrate that based on other projects, then it's more information for the board to take into consideration in granting the conditional use permit. In this case, they demonstrated that the lesser parking requirements will be sufficient for this site, and even though there's two different sites, these sites will be working as primarily as one.
I understand, but we're in Londonderry, right? So we have requirements in Londonderry for certain things, and that's why I'm asking this question.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And
the
I'm
other
not saying that
question-
it's not, I'm just saying that there are provisions in our regulations that will give the board the ability to look at that
Sure.
and reduce it in kind, based on the information.
Right. Now, the other question that I have is, the parking spaces that are allocated are based on the bank and the restaurant as well?
Correct.
Being in full capacity?
Mhm.
Okay, so they're not being added later. Okay, nothing else?
Thank you. Mary?
I don't have any comments at this time.
You do?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Is it safe to assume that, I mean, I've seen this site, but I'm not an engineer, so is it safe to assume that we have to blast up there?
We have some preliminary geotechnical investigations out there, but and what we have seen does not show that we're going to need to. We'll be doing a more extensive, geotechnical analysis as we move forward.
Okay, and I don't want to, again, I don't want to assume either, but this parking lot that we're making these potential exception for, because it's one gigantic parking lot, if you want to look at it that way, serving two shopping centers that act as one. Are they on the same level?
They are.
So they're not tiered,
That's correct.
right?
The tier is going from, the tier happens from
This
here
way.
this
Yeah.
way, not this way.
But even doing so, the parking spots closer to Vista Ridge Drive are not on an elevated
No, that's correct.
platform. So
No.
it's all flat.
One
So,
flat plateau.
Okay. All right. That was one question. Hold on. My next question is more, I guess, for staff. We look in that bottom corner, that left lot. I understand that's not part of this, and it's a different property owner. But at one point, when we were entertaining a business in that area, we talked about where traffic would flow in and out. And I guess depending on the business that's there and everything else, we talked about delivery trucks or whatever coming in to that location off of Vista Ridge Drive. And what I'm seeing is if you have this driveway coming out, if you could use the pointer over the one nearest to Rockingham Road, yeah, that one, and cars are making a right-hand turn out of there, are you going to be able to, is the intent ultimately for that property to have another driveway come out a few feet after and have cars turning in? I mean, I'm sorry, but I know that's not part of this project, but I don't think you can overlook it as part of the whole picture. Have we considered
That one already approved?
No. If the board remembers, way back when, we had a conceptual discussion with regard to a restaurant in that corner. And the gist of that discussion was whether or not the board will allow a right-in, right-out off of Route 28. Understandably so, that if there is a exit point off of Vista Ridge, it would be very tight. I mean, it's very tight given the configurations of the driveways that we're looking at tonight. So, yeah, obviously,
There's a slope there too, so that they couldn't even pull into that driveway that they're looking at and go down to the property, could that?
no, there is a topographic difference in between the two sites, and as you see that wetlands coming down, the wetland does come down towards that corner, based on the topography of the site. But to answer your question, yeah, if a driveway and anywhere along here will be extremely tight.
So, I mean, I realize that they got here first with their plan versus the other group, but at the same time, it severely, and now will severely limit that other area.
Correct.
Right, but I'm not assuming incorrectly.
No, you're not.
My only question is, am I understanding it correctly that if one were to visit that bank, they have to drive through the rows of parked cars to get to it?
That's correct. You're not going to have any access to the bank directly off of Vista Ridge. You would either use the main entrance and come down to come here. Would probably be your most direct access.
Seems like a sort of undesirable setup, but
Is it a drive-through?
I guess that's not my.
Yeah, that looks like a drive-through in there. There's 3 lanes.
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, that was my question.
Thank you. Dana?
Okay, I've got a few things. Number one, are you going to have any purple lilacs?
We do.
Okay, and are you planning a light on Vista Ridge in your main entrance?
Not at this time.
Okay. Coming off of 28, coming up Vista Ridge, you're showing the left turn lane and medians. Are those painted medians?
Those are painted medians.
Make a strong recommendation, you go to raised medians. Right in, right out, ain't gonna work with painted medians. So, make a very strong recommendation, because I can guarantee you, everybody coming in is gonna make a left into that first driveway, and everybody coming out will make a left out onto Vista Ridge if they wanna go that way. I've yet to see a right in, right out work.
There is a raised median at that location.
Okay.
That's at that, the right in, right out.
Here.
That is a
Yeah,
raised
But the
median.
medians out here are not.
I mean, on Vista Ridge.
Yeah. You can't actually make that turn with the median, the raised median.
Want that?
Yeah.
Well, you can go over it.
I tell you what, they got a right in, right up on South Willow at the Shell Station. People are constantly making a left in there and a left out.
I understand.
And that's a raised median there also.
I don't mind having my traffic engineer address it if you'd like.
The only other recommendation I would make is, eventually somebody is gonna go into this lot here. I would hope you guys would work, because I know when they were in before, we did discuss the potential of this, and at least allowing a walkway or something between the two.
And Mr. Coons, I actually contacted them a number of times. They've been unresponsive. So if they don't return my calls, I can't do anything.
No, I understand that, but I mean,
But I think a walkway connecting is a reasonable request when that happens. Sure.
I mean, eventually something will go in.
Sure. I agree.
I believe that's all I have. Oh, one other thing. Wintertime, most likely Christmas time, and sometimes we do get snow around then. I expect that parking lot will fill up. Is there going to be, are you going to lose any spaces due to snow storage?
You know, in all our centers, we do require them to be removed and put in the snow storage designated area. So we don't believe in pushing and piling in the parking lot. So they will have a loader there that has to locate it in the snow storage area, the required areas. And that's pretty consistent in most of the properties that we have. I think it's important for the tenants. It's important operationally. It's safer that way. So we do believe in that.
Okay, because I know Mall, New Hampshire, they don't.
Yeah, well,
They
some
lose
places don't. Some
a
places
third of the
don't.
parking lot.
Yeah. But this is a small center.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Mall, New Hampshire, maybe that's their snow storage area. I don't know.
That's all I have.
Tom?
Design review item number 3 it indicates the applicant's design does not provide landscaping to enclose a proposed lot. Is that both lots? There's no screening, I guess?
I think it refers to the entry road.
Because we have subdivided a line right down through here, we are not providing the landscaping against that lot line because it's obviously your entrance drive.
But along the perimeter you are?
We are.
Is this lot going to have lights?
Parking lot lights?
Absolutely.
Well, absolutely, sure. And actually, not to interrupt you, but the light fixture is something that has to be approved by Heritage Committee, and they did approve the light fixture. And part of our submission package, we have a full light analysis and showing where the photometrics cover the area. That's part of our submission package.
That's all I had.
Nothing further to add.
Chris?
Further to what Tom was talking about, I think the concern I would have, and I'm sure it will be voiced by the public, is a light impact, and with the waiver that we're looking to do along Vista Ridge in terms of trees, whether there's something that staff can look at to recommend that. The other, to mitigate that. The other aspect is what is the proposed elevation for the buildings?
Elevation or with respect to the road? which you asked.
Yes, yeah.
The buildings here actually sit down some 20 feet from, Vista Ridge in this area.
The top of the building, or
the pavement grade
the base
is
of the
down
building,
below.
okay.
So to your question regarding the lighting, a large portion of the Vista Ridge, you're actually going to look over the top of the light poles instead of,
Okay, will they
underneath.
be looking directly at the building, or will there be some buffer to them seeing the front of the building? I'm presuming there'll be some signage on the buildings as well, which, if that's lit,
Gotcha.
I'd be looking out of my apartment there.
The direct abutters across Vista Ridge in the condo complex are actually going to sit, if you're familiar with the complex, Vista Ridge is going to sit above our parking lot, the roadway, and then the Vista Ridge condos sit another, I'm going to guess, 10, 15 feet above Vista Ridge roadway itself.
Okay.
So they're well above, because they sit right up on the knoll. They're going to be looking over the entire complex.
That was it.
I noticed that your people are going to be coming in to deliver up through the back of the...
Correct.
Are you having any plans of people coming off Perkins, accessing that off Perkins, or is it everybody required to come up Vista Ridge?
Well, we are going to encourage, we may miss one, but I think the vast 90% of the people will deliver inside the property and then go right to Route 28, and get back on the highway, which is the most direct route. We've tried, we've put the right in, right out the way it is, so that when people can travel around the back of the building, they only go one direction out towards 28 to really direct them in that way. We will make a requirement with our tenants that they have to direct their delivery people to use the Route 28 egress and not Perkins Road. Be very honest, I can't control 100%, but that's what we're going to plan on saying. That's what's to be required.
When you do this, when you say that they remove the snow, do they put it someplace where it's going to block the view going in and out of the parking lots and
No, the
entrances?
sight lines are, of course, the snow containment areas that have been designated on the plan and approved by staff. They're located such that they don't block the visibility. So safety is important. So if people are coming in the main entry, you're not going to dump up snow in the main entry. You put it in areas where they're not going to impact the visibility of shoppers and people traveling through the shopping center, excuse me.
I don't have anything further. I'd like to open it up to the public. If you want to come up and speak, I need you to come to a microphone and identify yourself with your name and address for the record. Sir?
If you don't mind, let them sit there, Mike. You're welcome.
I live on Vista Ridge Road, and I got a bunch of questions. Bear with me for a minute. We got 240 residents on Vista Ridge and Crestview Circle. Most of them are couples. They have one or two kids. We allow pets and dogs. I don't see even as much as a sidewalk to provide for the safety of over 1,000 residents of Vista Ridge complex. And I see that because if you look at the breaks in the highway coming up off of 28 on Vista Ridge, the first break on the first plan a year ago was at 10 Vista Ridge. Now, as we moved along, we're at 12 Vista Ridge break. Now we're at 14 Vista Ridge break. Now, the last one is at 2 Crestview Circle, which is right across the road from me. I'm concerned about the bus that stops there. There are two special provider buses for special need kids. There are there's a elementary school, middle school bus that stops there, and upwards of a dozen kids get off, and their parents with smaller children are waiting for them there. There are up to a half dozen high school kids that walk up from Perkins Road on the road because there's no sidewalk. I'm concerned about the value of the properties is really being reduced by the fact that there's not enough buffer between retail establishment and residents, especially 10, 12, and 14. I'm concerned about the fact that they say they can't grow trees at a certain angle. I would say, look at Vista Ridge. We've got a very steep angle, at least 4 to 1. We're growing some beautiful trees up there. I would expect the same diligence to be put into a buffer zone between the retail, or as far as I'm concerned, the roofs of retail, and a very pleasant place to live. I'm concerned for the same reason for the kids. I'm concerned about traffic signs. I'm concerned about lighting for this development, which is all other plans. I look at it, and it seems like it's just grown all the way around. So it's still right there. It's beyond Crestview Circle, and it takes in every bit of frontage of Vista Ridge. I think that's something we should all be concerned about. Right now, there's nothing there. And when I'm walking my dog, I have cars going by me, taking the shortcut from Perkins Road over to the light at Route 28 to turn left. They can't turn left on Perkins Road at commuter rush hour. You'll be there all day.
Yeah.
You'll be buying Subway lunch. So they cut through Perkins Road. They're usually late, and they're usually flying. The average speed is at least 45 to 50 miles an hour. It's when the kids are waiting for buses. It's when a lot of us are walking our dogs in the road because there's no sidewalk. And that's going to be further it's going to be worsened by the fact that there are people going to be coming in the same way. Perkins Road is a sneaky road. You can get anywhere. You can get down to Derry the back way. You can get to the Town Hall the back way. You can get down to 102 the back way. You can get to up here to 28 to Manchester the back way. Avoid all the lights. And there's going to be a lot of traffic. All the models you measure, I don't think are going to be correct. It's going to see a lot of traffic from Perkins onto this road. I think the road in the top, the southerly piece, behind, yeah, you've got a laser? Yeah, right there. That is guaranteed going to be a truck entrance. It's a perfect entrance for a truck. It's shaped the right way. It goes to the back of the buildings. It doesn't interfere with the clientele that are using the shops. You have trucks out front. That's going to impede shoppers' experience. That road's going to be used. You can direct your retailers all you want, but unless you demand, it's going to happen. They're going to slide in there. Where are they going to come from? They're going to come from Perkins Road. I don't think a truck is going to drive up, not necessarily up at 28, and go through that hodgepodge of semi-convoluted retail traffic. They get behind the buildings rather than swing up around Vista Ridge, across from my road, and go right into the back and loading docks of buildings. That's a concern of mine.
That back entrance is a left in, isn't it? from Vista Ridge, where they're delivering?
If that top one up there is a left hand,
That's a left and right. and-
Left hand, right?
Take it right
It's a
in.
left
full left
or
and
right
right.
in?
Correct.
should be no
Okay.
trucks allowed.
No, I'm saying if they come up 28
Yes.
and go all the way around to the back, that's a left into
That'd be
the
a left
site.
in, that'd be correct.
Okay?
And that'll be a
And,
truck going in front of every single
no,
apartment complex that's
Oh.
on Vista Ridge. Every single one. 10, 12, 14, and 16.
right.
Every single one. And right in front, right, it's going to cross in front of the non-stop stop at Crestview Circle, rolling stop, and it's going to go right beyond the bus pickup. The Londonderry school system has defined the bus pickup. They tell us where they're going
Sure.
to pick up the kids. So there's kids that walk all the way up to Perkins Road every day without a sidewalk.
So,
And the other thing about lighting, I would also ask is, I'm concerned about the lighting. I would ask the board to consider the lighting, especially in that area, and in the, what do you call it, surveillance lights, surveillance videos and lights are going to be shining on the back side of those buildings, because that's the obvious way somebody that's serious is going to try to gain entrance. Those lights are shining at us. I'd like the board to consider that option as well. This has grown a lot since the initial thing a year ago, which is I didn't bother ghosting it a year ago, because it turned out just the way I thought it would be. It's twice the size, and it's really evolved. And it now it's evolved to the point that we can ask specific questions about what are you doing about these things. We do not want our condominium values lessened by, our retailers grabbing at a prime piece of land. Part of London, I got a survey tonight, by the way, about Londonderry, and my main point of my love for Londonderry is strictly character. And the town center is where we are now. Where's the retail? The retail is in different places. That's the way it should be. We can't let it grow out of control, because people are looking at the new Exit 5 as a prime real estate.
Madam Chairman, I thought we had fairly extensive discussions about making sure this was walkable access to the people of Vista Ridge and sidewalks. I remember having quite a long discussion about that, and I'm really happy that you brought that up, because, I'm sorry, there was a lot to look at in this plan, and I didn't notice the lack of sidewalks. What happened to that idea?
Well, Brad can address where the sidewalks are.
You do have,
Pointed.
We have sidewalks on the Vista Ridge side that's controlled by us all the way down through 10.
There's sidewalks.
sidewalks all the way down through here,
Yeah.
all the way in, I'm not sure exactly where they terminate up here.
Right, I'm looking at your stores. Where are the sidewalks to provide access to your stores without our residents frequenting those stores and having to cross, but there's now going to be a very busy thoroughfare. You need to plan for that. I think we deserve it.
We have provided a crosswalk at the main intersection here. There's a sidewalk, dedicated sidewalk all the way down to the intersection here. We have sidewalks across all fronts here, over to here, cross over here, sidewalks all along the front of the buildings here, so you have direct access to all the storefronts from the intersection at the main entrance
Up to the
into all
top
the
where
sites.
10 Crestview, where Crestview Circle comes in, the southerly road break. Is there a crosswalk there?
We did not. No.
We don't tend to use that.
So we have to walk down, all the way down ours.
That entrance is strictly secondary. We're not going to, that's not our primary entrance, so we wouldn't encourage you to use that anyway, because it goes to the back of the building.
right, but I think
Why is it there?
his point is also the fact that students are let off at the end of Perkins Road and Vista Ridge, and would you consider creating a sidewalk so that they have safe passage, knowing that that's where, well, we don't want trucks to come in there, but
We don't feel that it's safe to send people to the back of the building. we'd encourage people to use a sidewalk in
I'm
the
not
front of
talking
the
about people, I'm talking about the fact that there's students that are going to be getting off the bus that have to walk up to their houses, to their homes. And because you're going to be adding all of this traffic to the
Right.
road, both from Perkins and also from 28, the residents are saying, would you consider putting a sidewalk from Perkins up to their residences so that the kids don't have to walk on the road, avoiding the traffic that's being created because there's this new development coming in. So that's a question that I'm hearing them ask, and so we're passing that on to you.
I'd
as
rather
a
not
thought.
comment, please. I'd rather not comment.
No, and I understand that. I'm just saying that is something that we are passing on to you.
I think it's a point that requires consideration. If there are 500 and some odd parking spots in there, there are going to be a lot of cars. I have one more. The plot that we're not talking about shows a road access. I can't imagine that state of New Hampshire is going to allow a light, a road access at Parkins, a light on either side of I-93 in a half-mile area. They're not going to allow a right of way of that undefined ghost retail space. If that's not the case, if that's more traffic turning into Vista Ridge and making a left turn into the parking lot and going through the retail development back into where that restaurant site is. I think rather than a restaurant site, it'd be a great site for a snow dump, myself.
So don't have the restaurant have the snow dump there. Yeah, you're going to go for that, right?
I think there are things to be considered besides retail.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Madam Chairman, may
Oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry, John.
interrupt
Yes,
for 1
I'm sorry,
second? Quick question I have is that if you do have the sidewalk and the crosswalk there in the front of the area, and to Dana's point about safety, so if you're going to have people walking down, you're going to have the traffic funneled right into that area with no lights there. Does it make sense that you have a pedestrian crossing light at that particular intersection? Visually, I have this woman walking across the street with a baby and someone texting on their phone and just, we got a mess on our hands.
Well, light ain't gonna stop that.
No, but if we have the light there, it's a safety factor, and I understand that, but that's the only point of pedestrian access, and you're making way for that. And there are 1,000 people up on that hill. That's the number I heard. And you are going to have a volume of traffic there. Does it make sense to look at that? And I know you have your traffic study guy here, but from a pedestrian safety standpoint, does it make sense to look at that?
You talking about a traffic light? I just want to make sure I'm clear in your...
So you have your crosswalk there, which is fine, right? And you have the sidewalk that comes all the way down, and then you have the sidewalk that goes into the space. Okay? There's nothing there, it's pretty much the pedestrian crossing at will. Right? So there's nothing that a pedestrian can do other than wait for the traffic to clear. And you have a situation where potentially you could put someone in danger at that intersection. People, they come out, off of 28, or they come down the hill, and someone's crossing in that crosswalk, and there's nothing there.
So you're suggesting, I just want to make sure you're clear, so you're suggesting a street light, a traffic light?
Well, I'm suggesting, maybe a pedestrian light, so you have, it's...
A ped signal, a
A
pedestrian
ped signal,
signal.
exactly, something along those lines.
The more I look at that, I think there should be a regular traffic light there.
I tend
How
to
much
agree.
space is there between?
Traffic's going to come through here.
Is it going to be daily? There's going to be certain times of the day where you're going to have an awful lot of traffic going in and out of that driveway. Especially around the holidays when everybody's shopping.
So take it into consideration, in the morning you have your normal condominium traffic, right? You have the traffic that uses the cut-through. And then in the afternoon and the evenings, now you have the traffic that's in and out of the retail space, as well as the condominium traffic, as well as the cut-through traffic.
And the employees.
So your volume, is significantly increased during, evening and afternoon hours.
Charles, can you address that?
please.
For the record, Giles Ham with Vanessa and Associates. A couple things is, a traffic signal is not warranted there. We have to meet a certain volume criteria in terms of the exiting traffic. So there's certain volume criteria we have to meet to put a traffic signal in there, and a traffic signal is not warranted. So you can't put a signal there right now because the volume is such that it's not warranted.
What about a pedestrian signal?
No, my opinion of mid-block pedestrian signals like that, what happens is it's usually always green. So when a driver comes in, they're not looking for a light. And what happens is the pedestrian can press it and they think it's safe, but the driver is always used to a green light, so they're not really tuned to stopping there. So it does create a conflict that can be problematic. I think the safest way to cross is that people just got to look and they got to wait for a gap and walk across. There'll still be side crosswalks there, and there'll be signage there.
So it's either, you're telling me that it's a light that's always green and the pedestrian's at greater risk, or it's no light and the pedestrian pretty much is at risk?
Well, what happens is the pedestrian light at a mid-block location, which is different than
You
at
can't
a
have the
signal.
light blink?
That's what I was thinking.
When the driver comes in, they're used to it always blinking.
But isn't the
And
driver responsible for the rules of the road and so forth?
I'm just explaining what
And-
happens in practice. So
Right.
a lot of mid-block signals are not put in for that reason.
Then how about a three-way stop?
That's what I,
Yeah, stop signs, right?
I feel like we need something to slow it down.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Either that or big speed
The audience
bumps.
needs to be quiet, please.
Yeah, I don't.
Stop sign and
Traffic
speed
slowed
bumps
down.
and blinking light, you know? I mean,
Well,
Yeah, I mean, a three-way stop would work.
yeah, absolutely. And then your pedestrian crossing at will
Right.
would be like any other
I mean,
intersection.
we think the design as proposed is safe, been reviewed by your consultant and your staff, but certainly, quite frankly, Vista Ridge Road is your road, so we think what we have proposed is safe.
Well, just so you know, I mean, I'm responsible on the school board side of the fence, and if I have kids crossing that road, I ultimately feel responsible for that, so I'm going to do everything to make sure that they're safe. So your studies can be one thing, my feeling on the situation is such that we should do something about this.
While we're at this stage, before it becomes a problem.
I get one kid hit, your study goes out the window.
Well, with all due respect, it's not just Giles' study. This was reviewed by your staff and by your consultant, and none of them picked that up. So I understand what you're saying, and obviously it's a concern. I can understand it's a concern. So we'll have some conversations with, I guess, John, and talk about whether or not a better signage program works better. I hear your concerns, and we'll work it out with John afterwards, if that's okay.
I'll add my voice.
I don't have an answer for you tonight.
I'll add my voice to John certainly on traffic calming down that strip. Having a three-way stop would bring the traffic speed around that loop a hell of a lot less. If they know they're coming up with a stop sign, they got pedestrians around that area.
And again, it's not as if we were avoiding doing anything, we just weren't asked to do anything.
Right.
Understood? Yeah.
So all I could say now is that we'll take it up with John afterwards and propose some solution that works for him.
And honestly, that's why we're here too,
Yeah,
right?
it's-
Yeah, I know.
With
But
all
again,
due respect, we understand.
we're
but
trying to not,
that's why we're here.
obviously, we're doing a lot of work. We're not trying to avoid doing something like a stop sign, but just that we weren't asked to do that.
Right.
And, we went through an exhausting process, and we just, we followed the process.
Okay.
Are there any other butters? Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, come on up, Jan.
Jan McLaughlin, 14 Crestview Circle, among other places. But lots of questions. The thing about the sidewalk, that part of Vista Ridge Road has a guardrail on both sides. So it's not like there's placed a grass for people to walk either. There's a guardrail along that section that the trucks or whoever is going to go in and out there. And there doesn't look like there's any improvement on that part of the road. And my concern is there's no improvement on that road. You know people are going to come that way, and already it's difficult sometimes to make the turns into Crestview Circle. We at Crestview Circle, the condominium association, because of the traffic just of our own people going through Crestview Circle and around the condominium, we put seasonal bumpers, speed bumps to slow down the traffic, and there's none of that on Vista Ridge Road. So, you add, let's say, all the traffic that we have, plus the traffic from the 572 parking spaces, plus whatever else, that's going to be a lot of traffic, and it's going to be very fast, because it's already very fast. It's very difficult to walk and cross that road if you try to cross it as a person right now, and there's nobody there. So it'd be very difficult, because it's difficult right now to cross from Vista Ridge to go across the Crestview Circle if you're on that side of the road. And I do worry about those high school students and those junior high students that get left off at Perkins Road and have to walk that whole distance and have to stay there. And they're not allowed, parents aren't allowed to park on the road. There's no place for them to congregate, yet there's 10 or 15 kids at those spots twice a day, and they're just being left there. We're lucky that nobody's been hit at this point. Yet in Perkins Road, every kid is picked up at their house. So that's about the road. Trucks are going to come in that way. I see people all the time making that cut through from Perkins Road to avoid that traffic. And the trucks are going to do the same thing. They're going to come in, and they're going to come in that back way because it is the most direct route to get to those stores. And the stores aren't going to want the trucks out front. So as much you can say, well, we're not going to do that, or they're going to use the main road, or it's going to be more convenient for them to come up that way, and it's going to be a hazard for every single one of us that is trying to avoid coming by the stores and going out the way that we've been going currently. It's going to make a problem for all of those people as well.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second? John, when Hannaford came in, didn't they make a rule that they couldn't accept anybody coming down Gilcrest Road, that everybody had to come down that other road that's closer to the back of Hannaford?
I'd have to look into it, Mary, it doesn't...
But as far as the trucks?
No? Well...
I do know that most of them come in off of Gilcrest.
Really? Okay. All right.
Because that's a straight shot in.
Mary? No, there was no limitation on that. The discussion around the trucks turning along Gilcrest Road centered around the sidewalk that was required to put in there. I think the town wanted to see a sidewalk put there, and the applicant said they didn't want to put one there because of the truck turning, that they would turn on onto the sidewalk in order to make that turn. And at the time, Jim and Agnes was the chairperson, who also happened to be a truck driver, and admonished them that if anybody can't take that turn, then they should be fired.
Right. So I guess I would, point to that as far as how important it is for us to have sidewalks in this whole rigmarole.
I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems that when Vista Ridge was approved, I thought that there was a requirement that sidewalks go completely around.
Well, you have no sidewalks, or do you have some sidewalks?
We have sidewalks in our area, but they're from Crestview Circle and Vista Ridge, the second Crestview Circle and Vista Ridge, down by 18. There are no sidewalks the whole rest of the section.
I believe this.
The point where Crestview Circle is.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Crestview Circle's there. That's the bottom half of Crestview
You have
Circle,
sidewalk.
and the other's at the top. There's sidewalks on the
South side.
south side, yeah,
All the way across.
but only on that side, yeah.
Right.
And not down the other way,
But not down towards...
even though that's where the
Nothing
kids
here.
are required
Right.
to
I
be.
mean, I could be wrong, but I thought that the sidewalks are supposed to be extended all the way to Perkins.
No, no, again, Dana...
Okay,
yeah.
I could be wrong.
You're wrong.
Thank you very much, John.
I want to think about that a little, huh?
Okay, Jim.
But I say, it is a problem with the school kids. In fact, I keep saying, we don't have school kids, but every day I see them stand out there, and I worry for them,
Sure.
for their safety. Now, even though they're high school kids or junior high kids, the elementary kids get picked up at the intersection of Crestview and Vista Ridge, which, again, is still a little bit dicey if you've got 500 more cars driving down the road. I understand about it being terraced and all that, which just means everybody's going to look at the air conditioning units and whatever's on top of these buildings, I guess. But I am concerned about reducing the number of trees that are planted. Yes, there's a hill, I get that, but that hill is the only thing, or the plantings that are on that hill is the only thing that's going to provide our neighbors that are in 10, 12, and 14 some bit of shadowing of the parking lot below and the lights there. One assumes that we also, as people that live in the community, are going to be encouraged to shop at the shopping center. So one would expect that it would be easy for us to get there. I mean, be able to access it either through the sidewalks or through the roadways. It just seems like the roadway improvements are only for, the roadway improvements is only for this little section to get everybody off of 28, and that's great if there's nobody coming from Londonderry to use the stores, or from Vista Ridge to use the stores. And the other thing is, I understand about the drainage, I guess. I'm a little concerned that we're going to have drainage backup issues. It's nice that the wetland's there. It's too bad the wetlands wasn't over here. Because it would be a little bit more, of a view issue. But I am concerned that anytime we reduce the number of parking spaces, I don't want just parking spaces for the sake of having parking spaces. But it does concern me that there'll be Christmas time and there'll be people parking on Vista Ridge Road, etc. Is there currently it's not signed that there's no parking on Vista Ridge at all. We've been told that by our association not to park there, don't park your cars there, we're going to give you little fines or whatever. But it is a town road, and I worry that it's going to be easier for people to park, especially in that back section that nobody's going to be using. Park in the back section, just come in and get into those stores, or maybe it's an easy place for employees to park because they don't have to deal with using up valuable parking spaces. So, what is the plan for keeping Vista Ridge Road free of cars that are going to impede the small area that already is there?
Thank you. Listen, there's so many people here, and I'm
Ask a real
going
quick question.
Sure.
To the people, I'm assuming most of the people live in Vista Ridge. Now, if this were there, how many people, if you shop there, would be willing to walk to these shops? Okay,
Every hand went up.
all right. What is the possibility of putting another crosswalk, say, near the middle driveway there to Vista Ridge? I don't know which apartments it goes, but somewhere close to that, putting a crosswalk with stairs or something going down over the bank. Because I understand if they're willing to walk, I really don't want to see, I don't expect them to walk, a quarter of a mile out of the way if they don't need to, especially, in inclement weather.
I don't expect to see stairs either. Sorry.
Stairs, ramp,
Access.
I'm trying to help. I'm trying to meet halfway.
I appreciate that.
What I was going to say is that I encourage all of you to come, and I'm glad you're all here, and I want you all to speak. However, if you are going to say the same concerns, please limit them to this is our concern. We have the same concern as Jan or whomever. Just because the other applicants were very kind to allow us to move you guys ahead of them, and they've already been here for 2 hours. So you all have too, and I appreciate that. So next. Okay, sir.
Hi, I'm Lee Jeffers. I live at 16 Vista Ridge. I'm also on the board of directors at Vista Ridge. I have a real concern with that rear entrance. I hear the developer keep saying that they're going to discourage trucks from using that entrance. But when you first brought that up on the overhead, when I saw that driveway, immediately I thought, well, that's where the trucks are going to be delivering to and from the property. That is a real concern. Again, we discussed this earlier tonight with Perkins Road and the traffic. It's already bad enough as it is, and that back entrance I just feel is going to be very problematic. And just to reiterate Bill Sibley's comment from earlier, I don't think it's asking too much to have those sidewalks installed as he requested. I think that's a pretty That's a minor concession that I think that the folks at Vista Ridge could be given. Thank you.
Okay, I understood you to say that you were encouraging your trucks to deliver to, using that back entrance.
No, I didn't say that. First of all, you should know that any shopping center you see, 98% of the deliveries occur early morning before stores open up. So all the deliveries are scheduled to go through the main entry. Then they come off 28, off 93, they have a trailer, they pull into the main entrance, which has a turning radiuses, and they travel around the center. They don't come up Perkins. It's just not practical that they would do that. So they're gone before the stores open up.
Okay, and I appreciate that they're gone before the stores open up at 9.
Right.
But they're not gone before the students leave at 7:20 and at 8.
Well, they're addressing the
Or at
students, and
6:20.
I didn't actually say, I said we just, the turning radiuses are pretty tight on that secondary entrance. So I don't think you're going to find too many trucks using that. There's a grade change on both sides of that road. It would be dangerous to try to make a turn. So they're not going to use that entrance because they can't make that turn. It's very hard to make a right-hand turn coming out of that space. They will go around the whole center. They'll come out of the center at 28. They'll enter it at 28 at the main entrance. They'll take the simplest route possible. All the interior turning radiuses have been reviewed, approved. Fire department approved them. Everybody can make the turns going around the building. So that's what they'll use.
Another hand? Sir? And then,
Use that.
no, I'm just saying, and then this gentleman's queued, and then that gentleman and that lady, okay?
Dave Maloney, 2 Crestview Circle. Originally, this was the plan that was going to be made with the 3 stores, I guess, on the left-hand side. And the white space there is going to be McDonald's. I don't know whether that's still in the workings or not, but that's going to pose a problem with traffic and the widening of the road down there. In regards to the school kids, the high school kids at Perkins Road, I think that they should be moving the pickup zone further up the hill. And then with this increased traffic, the sidewalks are a key issue for going down to that way to the other stores and to the hotel or whatever. I don't know what happened to the wetland buffer zone, which is where 51.9 is. At least part of that store would be in. Can anybody explain what happened to that buffer zone? You're talking now here, and then you're putting stores here.
You know what? Yeah. Again, this is Brad's plan, so I'll let Brad address it, because this doesn't show that finger of that wetlands in there anymore. Brad he's the one who produced that plan, not me, so.
So that was at the conceptual discussion that we had.
Over here, what happened to these wetlands in this section?
As we had mentioned in our presentation, that we had gone for a wetland impact. We did have 9,900 plus or minus square feet of impact on the entire project, which was gone through with Concom and DES and has been approved. So that wetland we have an approved permit for fill.
And they've created a different wetland to mitigate it.
And in regards to the entrance for the, behind the buildings, can they make that so it's not entry by trucks and only by emergency vehicles? And is it my understanding that delivery trucks are supposed to go in the main entrance? Okay, and then to the stores?
Correct.
And they're gonna exit the same way?
Correct.
Now, can we put a limit on what time the delivery of the trucks are coming?
I'm not sure if we, that's not within our purview, I don't believe. So,
I mean, that's gonna create early morning
It is,
traffic.
We can.
Absolutely.
You can't drive down Hall Road between certain hours of the day. You can't drive through Vista Ridge certain hours of the day. And you can post it. That's just one street near us that you can't drive from 9 at night to 7 in the morning. I'm a truck driver.
Sir, could you come to the microphone, please? You were next in queue anyway, so could you come to the microphone? Not that you have to sit down, I just need his name for the record.
I'm Danny Mendoza. I live at Vista Ridge, Crestview Circle. That road in the back, I've driven to go home with my truck off of Perkins. Turning off of Perkins onto Vista Ridge Drive, it's a tough turn, either way coming in. That road, that's an access road in the back of the proposed mall. What purpose is that road going to serve if you're discouraging people to use it for deliveries? I'm a truck driver. I'm not going to want to drive all the way through the parking lot and dodge people to make a delivery to the back road there. I'm going to come around and I'm going to fish in. I don't care what time it is. I start at 3:30 in the morning. You think my neighbors are going to want to hear a diesel coming through at 3:30 in the morning, waking us all up? That road serves no purpose. Get rid of it. Now you don't need a sidewalk. Now the kids can walk down the street. They don't have to worry about being picked up by the bus. Get rid of the road. It's an accident waiting to happen.
You're talking about this right here.
This thing in the back. We don't need it. That road in the back, why aren't we widening it then? Like we're widening that road to bring traffic in. There should be two-way traffic back there if that road is going to sit there.
Yeah, I have a question for you. I can imagine that trying to bring a truck in through from Perkins and making that turn from Perkins onto Vista would be hell.
And one more thing, I drive a straight job. I don't drive an 18-wheeler. And it's tough getting a straight job in there.
So
That's no trailer.
That's what I was gonna
I drive a gas truck.
So what you're saying is that most likely, given that back entrance existence, trucks would come in along 28 onto Vista Ridge and do the loop around.
Yeah.
And
this
see
is
how
right
you're
here.
coming in, right?
This point at the top button.
See how you come in there? I would drive in, and you know what? There's a lot of traffic. I'm going right over that curb. I'm going to eat up all that lawn. I'm going to break all that sidewalk. That's what happens. At 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody's around, nobody cares. And then the town's going to say, why is this broke? We're putting a lot of money into Vista Ridge. Why does this street keep breaking? Because at 3 and 4 in the morning, when we're making deliveries, nobody's up. It's my word against yours that my neighbor saw me drive on that sidewalk. No, I didn't. The plow did that. I know, we hear it all. That road is a joke. It doesn't need to be there if it doesn't serve a purpose. It's an accident
John,
waiting to happen.
Does that road have to be there for any kind of emergency vehicle?
Have to look into it. Why, again?
If I could address for a
The only thing I can
second.
think of is the fire department.
Yeah, I was going to say that the
The
fire,
other option we could do is make Vista Ridge a gated community.
Okay.
Put 2 automatic gates on each end. Then you don't have to worry about mediums going one way or another. The kids can be picked up at the end of the road on both sides. And these fine gentlemen can pay to have it installed and supply 240 automatic remotes to let us get in and out. It's done in California, it
Excuse
can
me,
be
sir.
done in
Thank you.
Londonderry.
Andre, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I just want to address part of, I think you're talking about this right here.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason is that the fire department, if I could finish. Part of the reason why the fire department wants 360-degree access to this facility, so they require to have this back here, and you'll find that through all the developments in Londonderry.
Okay.
So is
How
it
about-
possible to make that a gate?
How about
Put a
a
gate
bar
on
with
that?
a lock
You know,
that the
Is
fire
it
department
emergency?
has the key,
No.
just like they have a key to get into our units?
I think,
Sure they will.
No, they're trying to get away from doing that. That's why you see a lot of Opticon systems, so they don't, if there's an emergency, they can hit a button and the gate goes up, as opposed to trying to go out and fiddle with it. I understand what you're going to say. I just don't want you to debate. It's just that. I
No,
just
no,
know
no,
that's
but
they
what
want.
I'm saying is, and like this gentleman said, the first kid that gets hit there, how much did that
Well,
save?
what you asked me, you asked a question regarding why is that road back
Right.
there? I just wanted to give you an answer.
Okay.
So part of the reason why that road's back there is for our fire access.
Okay,
So-
thank you, sir. I just wanted to let the applicant respond.
Okay.
yeah, actually, I wanted to just compliment what Andre said. The fire chief wanted that access. They want to fight the fire from both sides. And they don't want to have to, in the middle of the day, fight any traffic. So they want clear access. So this gentleman could take it up with the fire chief.
But wouldn't it
that-
be possible to put the emergency gate there?
They don't want an emergency gate. They want to be able to get in when they can.
Well,
So you could take it up with the fire chief. But
it's possible.
well, I don't think it's safe. If they want to get in, and for some reason nobody has the key or whatever, they want clear access to fight a fire
Right.
on a shopping center. So they wanted access from the rear and from the front.
Okay.
So
They still have the gate at the middle school? Or did they take it down? Or unlock
No,
it?
we've got Opticon gates throughout town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, at the middle school, back
the
into the
middle
back
school, we have
fields.
gates.
On the backfields, yeah, they're still locked, and
There's
they all
locked
have
gates.
keys.
But if they needed to get through, they'd just
We've
plow
got one on
through.
Clark's Bridge Road.
No, they don't. My kid broke his arm there, and it was blocked, and they
Oh.
didn't break through. The ambulance had to stay out there, and
Oh.
they took him out that way, so. And I thought,
again,
But these are the ones like for
no,
example. the
no,
one
okay, I'm
that's
just asking because the
across
last
from
one was
Home
just
Depot.
locked. I was just wondering if that was the case.
Yeah.
again, with all due respect, we're not circumventing the process. We put it over to all your departments to look at it, and this is what they asked us to provide.
Right, and I
So,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
so it was done for, it was there for safety reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and it was there to be able to, the fire department wants it. They want clean access to the rear, they want to be able to get to it in the quickest way they can. They don't want any obstructions from the front that could hinder their ability to get behind a building.
Right.
So,
I don't think anybody's faulting you. I just think they're looking to see if there's an alternative.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be a question I would want you to ask.
But what
would
about this
encourage you to
part of
ask
the building
fire
over
department.
here? Is there any access to that part of the building in this corner here?
Over here?
See the L shape? Yeah, right in there. But what's all right there? Why can't you make access to go around the building that way? From that entrance, so the firefighters can
Do this?
fight the fire 360 degrees around that building, come down this corner. I know, well, bring in your grade a little more. You're cutting the grade anyways. Make it so you can get a truck around the back of that building.
Why don't we take it as a genuine concern of all the residents of Vista Ridge and ask the planning board to take it up with the highway department, the fire department, and the police department, and the best way to work that road.
And they are gonna have to blast there. Who's gonna pay for all the damage at Vista Ridge? When they start blasting on that hill, that's all ledge.
All that.
That's another concern. That's
Well,
all ledge back
when
there
they
on
come-
this side.
They've gotten some geological surveys preliminary, right? And you have not determined whether or not you're going to be blasting. Is that correct?
If it has to be blasted, the typical process is you do a survey. You hire a company, they do a survey of all these surrounding areas within a certain geographic area for where you're blasting. It's very typical. And they do a video survey and determine what has been damaged, if there's anything's been damaged, so they can have a benchmark to determine if there's any further damage. In any blasting operation you see around the state, that's typical. And that would be provided here, and I'm sure that Mr. Trotti would want us to do that.
And I'm sure that this board would want you to do it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's typical. There's no surprises there.
Right. Could I get some other folks
Sure.
up? Sir, and then you?
Madam Chairman,
Sure.
while he's coming up, the issue where the bus stop is, I'm going to take that up with Mr. Caro tomorrow. I don't understand why the kids are walking that distance and why we're not coming around.
Because they're in the middle school and the high school.
I understand that. I still don't understand why, if we don't have sidewalks, and I understand there's a lot of non-sidewalk roads in this town, and we do allow them to walk, but in an area like this where we do have that volume of traffic, and how they can actually congregate at the corners, it would make sense to take a look at whether or not we're doing the right thing here. So I'll be talking to Peter tomorrow about that.
Thank you.
The only thing I have left on the back of that road, my question wasn't
This one right
answered
here?
about, if that part's being widened, how come the back of Vista Ridge Drive isn't gonna be widened?
You mean this area?
Yep, that's being widened.
Yeah.
Then if we're leaving that road, that access road back there, why aren't we widening that part of Vista Ridge? in the
Because,
back?
and I can address part of that, and if Steve Boudreau wants to judge, because this is where the majority of the traffic is going, and therefore that's where the majority of the improvements are going to be.
In
made.
reality,
Not in the same.
they won't.
Well, in
It'll be
reality,
the whole thing, because people aren't going to want to wait in traffic, they're going to want to get out the back.
well,
You know
you
as
asked
well as I
me,
do.
you asked me the question, is so why is that wider than that one? Is that based on the traffic analysis that was done, that's where the majority of the traffic is going to be, and that's where the improvements are taking place.
But what's going to happen when that's not the majority of the traffic, and people are taking the shortcut to go out, and
Yeah,
it's not widened?
thank you.
Thank you. My name is Hal Line, Vista Ridge, Unit 12-39. I have a couple of questions. One of that is nagging at me is, obviously you have a traffic study. You must have an estimated traffic flow per hour, peak hours, average hours, and I'm thinking you got at least 200 car visits, 2,000 car visits a day, maybe average of 3 cars a minute type of thing. Is that reasonable? Do we know the numbers? What are we going to be experiencing up there for traffic?
Giles?
Yes, a detailed traffic study was submitted, reviewed by your consultant. We're looking at about, on the peak hours, about 400 customers coming in and out over the busiest hours of the day. That'll be typically a weekday afternoon or a Saturday midday peak hour. And that's why we ended up widening the roadway to accommodate that increase in traffic.
So all they do with is the increase in traffic. They don't have to deal with what's already there, just what they're increasing it to.
Oh, no, we count what's out there, we know what's out there today,
Mhm.
and then we add the development traffic, and then we make sure the roadway
Right.
improvements can accommodate
Accommodates
that.
that.
So it's existing plus proposed.
Right.
Can I ask a question? Is that, what's the volume now? And did you count it going both ways? So do you count it going down to 28 and also going out to Perkins? Or would you only count it going from where your proposed entrance is?
We counted the traffic down at Route 28 and Vista Ridge Road. And you have about, say, maybe 30 to 40 cars an hour down at that point during today.
At peak?
Under existing conditions, yes.
Okay.
So, but also the point is that people have talked about this cut-through traffic. They're really, from what we see, I don't doubt that some people cut through that roadway, but the numbers suggest that there's not a lot of cut-throughs there because the numbers just aren't there.
Right, but, okay, and that's fair. Now, did you also take the numbers from the Perkins side, so you know it was entering and leaving Perkins?
No, we had met, a year and a half ago, we had met with New Hampshire DOT and town staff to talk about the intersections we would study for this project. And we looked at 28 intersections, Vista Ridge, Perkins Road at 28, and then the interchange was what staff and the state required us to study.
Okay.
And what were the hours that you studied?
We do counts, weekday evening peak hour, 4 to 6 p.m. We counted cars at that point, and then Saturday midday from 11 to 2 in the afternoon.
Okay, so 4 to 6 p.m. and 11 to 2 in the afternoon.
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday.
That's standard for traffic study for retail projects.
Okay, thank you.
So if I understood his numbers, we're going to go from 30 vehicles per hour to 480 vehicles per hour. I thought that's what he said, so that sounds a pretty significant.
Is that correct? Is that what you said? That you would go from 30 per hour to 480 per hour?
I think that the section of road from Route 28 to the main driveway is going to experience the majority of the traffic increase. That's correct. Your consultant reviewed the numbers, and based upon those numbers is why we designed the roadway improvements the way we did. Quite frankly, you don't want to build a big intersection in the back and build turn lanes, because if you make that also a signature entrance, they're going to go there. So the idea is very simple: widen where we want cars to go in, which is that 1,000-foot section, and you're not going to want to widen and make that rear entrance a major entrance. You just don't want to do that. That wouldn't make any sense at all.
Because my question wasn't on the road design. I'm sure they designed it correctly. It's the fact that we're going to see a very significant increase in traffic
Right.
in a residential area.
Thank you.
Okay? And so my further question is that Vista Ridge is a fairly quiet place, and we're talking about imposing on that a lot of traffic and noise. And my concern is, several of course, but one is, we now have a restaurant out in front of Vista Ridge, they're proposing, which I'm sure will operate beyond normal hours, probably have a liquor license, and that's a concern. The other point I make, you're being asked for a lot of waivers to your rules because they are trying to maximize what they can get out of that lot, and which is forcing them to minimize what they can do. That is, to me, that's extreme overdevelopment of what you've got, and I think it should be reduced. And one suggestion would be, I would take the restaurant, put it in that back building, don't allow it to be outside of that back building, take the bank, put it in another building. Reduces it, the impact, gives you better parking, and also reduces the potential problem with that restaurant in front. You may want to consider reducing it further, because it's really, you got to agree, that's a very compact and very intense development of that area. The other point is on the lighting. I would hope that any lighting is not upward, it has no upward reflection, it's all downward and appropriate shading. And the people at Vista Ridge should have some peace and quiet on their weekends, and I don't see this helping in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey?
Just want to state, because the second comment was regarding the lighting, and one of the requirements that the town has is that it requires developments to have full cutoff lighting, and even meaning that it shines down onto the area in question, as opposed to the old lights that used to bulb at the end that just cast light anywhere. So there's full cutoff lighting. Even the lighting on the sides of the building is required to be full cutoff lighting, so it's not the blast packs that you see typically on the side of all the buildings in Londonderry.
I think I had said you, sir. Well, and that's fine, ma'am. I mean, you can come up right at, okay, sir, come on up, though, so that you can.
Hi, my name is Sherry Fortier. I live on Crestview Circle. I just have a few comments, so I won't be long, I hope. But one observation is just that if a fire truck can make the turn from Perkins Road onto Vista Ridge and into that driveway, I'm not really sure why a truck couldn't. So in any event, I think sidewalks there would be a really nice idea. My questions are more about, I guess, the parking. I know the reduction in parking spots isn't a great lot, but one of the things I'm wondering about, and again, especially with holiday shopping seasons, is in the event that there is an overflow of parking, aside from potentially people parking on the road, there is overflow parking in our condo complexes, and the parking is not going to be that far away. It's really just going to be crossing the street to get into the parking lot on some of the Vista Ridge units. So I guess for me, that would be one reason not to allow for fewer parking spaces. And then my last comment is, again, in talking about people walking and potentially doing a three-way stop at that major entrance to the plaza, I think then potentially you end up with a backlog of traffic up Vista Ridge. So I think if you have there's already a stoplight at the bottom of the hill, and so now you have a three-way stop, so potentially traffic going up is going to be backed up. And again, during rush hour, Route 28 is a parking lot at times. So I think that potentially adds to backlog that way. And I think people coming down Vista Ridge to exit, now you have a stop sign, and then potentially you're stuck at a traffic light in advance of that. So those are my only additional concerns, I guess, from what everyone else is saying.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Jeff Talbot, I live on Crestview Circle. My main concern is actually coming from 28 from Manchester, going toward. It's currently a two-way, a two-lane with a turn possibly toward Symes. There is no turn-only lane going right into Vista Ridge. Is their proposal for that? Because that does get backed up very, very quickly. I know for a fact I'm one of the few people usually when I'm on my way home from work who are actually trying to turn that way, and I usually have to wait 3 or 4 light cycles to often get through there. I think that if we're going to increase the traffic there, that's going to be backed up even further. I've been backed up to the gas station at the Triangle there on occasion.
Wow.
So, and that's, you're talking main time of day, 5 o'clock. That's my biggest concern with this whole project. The other question I have are, only because I'm not sure, what are our regulations on times of businesses to be open? And what are the tenants going to be for these buildings? Do we have any idea on the tenants for these, potential tenants for these buildings yet?
Okay. So, is there any plan for a right turn only lane off 28 into
There's
Vista Ridge?
no dedicated turn lane off of 28 onto Vista Ridge, correct?
Okay. And that would be from the state, right?
Yeah.
Right. Because the applicant is not required that far out for site plan, for improvements?
They
Or are
would have
they?
been if it warranted it.
Okay.
Looking at the big picture, not looking at just the situation that's there.
Okay. And then your other question was about the,
Just business
The
hours,
business
allowances
hours?
for town, and what the potential tenants will be for these areas.
do you have potential tenants yet?
No, but I can announce at this time. We have to get first approval before we secure tenants.
Okay, but your thought is a restaurant, a bank?
Yeah, I think it'll be mainly a lot of convenience retailers, hair, cellular, cleaners, that sort of thing.
Okay.
One of my concerns with not knowing who's possibly going to be there, and I understand your side of it, is in the surrounding towns, Derry, Manchester, there are a lot of small shopping areas where there are a lot of vacancies open right now. It's going to be even worse for our property if this property has vacancies and there aren't people shopping in these areas, and then we end up with a completely vacant shopping center 20 years from now.
Sure.
That's all.
Thank you.
Yep.
And hours of operation? Do you know what our regulations say for hours of
There are no
operation?
regulations for the hours of operation, although the planning board could, if they saw a need to limit, for instance, a restaurant closing by 11 p.m. because it's near a residential neighborhood. And for lights to be turned off other than for safety an hour after shops close, and not before a certain time of the day in the morning, so.
What's the applicant figuring for hours of operation?
Typical of most retail stores, restaurants typically open a little bit later.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but as far as the retail stores, they close, sometimes they close at 9, sometimes they close at 10. The lights typically stay on for a couple hours after they close for security reasons, because employees are leaving, usually an hour after they close. But then we usually shut them down, or shut down the majority of them. We still keep the emergency lights on. And that's typical.
You don't anticipate the restaurant being the type of restaurant that would have 24 hours like McDonald's has a 24-hour drive-through?
No, it's a full-service restaurant, so any of you full-service restaurants that you see any place, typically close 12/1 on the weekends. But there are restrictions on how late they can stay open based on the liquor license laws. But it'd be no different than any other restaurant in Londonderry, a full-service restaurant in Londonderry, I suspect.
What time does 99's close? Because this is pretty much a similar situation. 99's over. And what time's the bar close? 2? So that's potentially what we're looking
You
at, right?
closing that out there, Dan? Yes, Sam.
Mary, I just want to touch on an area that the gentleman just spoke about regarding the deceleration lane turning right into the property. And Giles, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no deceleration lane right now, correct, going into the site? All right. And it also was stated that, it wasn't warranted. It was, and when we say that, this is not an arbitrary thing to say, well, it's not warranted. It's a state highway, so if the volume of traffic warrants a right turn lane, believe me, they will be building a right turn lane. Right now, based on the traffic study, it didn't meet that warrant. Therefore, there was no turning lane required.
Do we have any other abutters that have new concerns? Please come forward.
My name is Jean Bonus, and I live at Crestview Circle. And I think, like a lot of other people here, my main concern is value of my property going down. When I moved in, it was a wooded place in front. I understood from the meeting that I came to last year that there was going to be retail stuff going in. I had absolutely no vision of something taking up that much of that circle inside Vista Ridge Circle. I just think it was grossly misrepresented when they talked about rezoning. They said that the buffer zone was going to increase, and I don't see any kind of a buffer zone, you know, for 3/4 of the thing there. And my fear is that the property values are going to go down because we're going to be like the condos beside the Walmart in Salem. We're going to be living, you know, abutting a parking lot, and that's not what I bought when I moved in there. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Now I'm going to bring it back to the board. Is there any additional comments?
My only concern is also the traffic, because I've also witnessed and personally have experienced problems on 28 getting very backed up. The corner of Perkins and 28, when it's traffic time, especially now that they've changed it to 2 lanes there, people don't keep that box open there. That causes problems. Trying to make a left onto Perkins, that causes big problems. And because now you have that right lane that goes on to 93 South, people accelerate and not looking as well. So I know that has nothing to do with the main entrance, but I do see problems on that road now, the way it is without all this additional traffic. So I am concerned about all the additional traffic, especially that we're saying that there isn't going to be, you know, an extra right turning lane, and there isn't going to be provisions to help traffic flow. I agree with the gentleman. It does take 3-4 lights sometimes before you can even get through that area. I love the idea of the development. I am concerned about the traffic. I'm kind of surprised that traffic wasn't an issue with all the studies. I'm very surprised, actually.
Chris?
So that's my concern.
I'm going to go to Chris and then Andre.
Yeah, sort of a, I guess, procedural question. There's been several questions posed to the applicant, concerns from the folks at Vista Ridge, things I think that need to get researched. So what are our steps here? I think there needs to be some homework done.
Well, we can first thing we have, before we do anything, we have to decide if we're going to approve the waivers. Then the next choice is we either conditionally approve it or we continue it. My personal feeling right now is to continue it, because I think there's enough unanswered questions and concerns that we need to bring it back.
Case in point.
Andre?
I just want to get to Maria's concern about traffic, because as you know, in past plans, it doesn't matter if it's Home Depot, Oniffer Brothers, or even Vista Ridge itself, traffic is always a big issue, and that's something, as you know, that we take very seriously, and we look at everything under the sun. And in regards to the traffic, they did the work that we requested them to do. They did the work that the DOT required them to do, and what you see here is a result of that. Keep in mind that most of the work that they're going to be doing addresses the concerns that made the traffic going in and out of this property, and obviously the main entranceway is where you see the bulk of it. But please keep in mind the fact that DOT is finishing up the work started, I think it was 4 years ago, with regard to exit 5. I believe the initial thrust of their improvements was to improve the northbound and actually, the northbound, southbound off-ramp, southbound on-ramp. Now they're going to be improving the northbound off-ramp, and the actual Route 28 in between Liberty Drive Extension all the way to, I think, Perkins, in this round of improvements. And so that's going on concurrently with this, and so that was coupled with the traffic study that was done. But we take traffic very seriously. We have our consultant go through it and work with their consultant to make sure that that aspect of it. It doesn't mean that the concerns that were brought up here are not valid. Just want to make sure that the board is reassured that we look at everything, and our consultant looks at everything and asks these same questions, a lot of the same questions that are brought up to here to the applicant. There are some new ones with regard to the sidewalk, and I know the sidewalk issue was a big issue when Vista Ridge was put in there, because at first, as you read, actually, I don't know if anybody was on the board at the time.
I wasn't at the time, but I remember hearing some things.
But that sidewalk was something that was not part of the Vista Ridge plan. It's something that we said we wanted it. Well, and the town said it wanted it, and so it put it in there. But it just went up to Crestview Circle because that's where the last building stopped.
Right.
And knowing full well that if anything took place in the interior of this, it was zone commercial. It's been zone commercial for a long time, and it went through a commercial one zone and went to a commercial with the overlay zone, a performance overlay, and now it's a commercial, a mixed-use commercial district. And but there was when we went through the small area master plan, there was an acknowledgement that we knew that something was going to go on this, and now something has, but we did apply Londonderry's ordinances and requirements to it, and but the questions that were raised is something that obviously we have to take a look at.
Just real quick, Andre, was this the site, just refresh my memory, that several years ago there was a proposed plan or a whatever, multiple apartment buildings, fairly large ones?
That got turned into these condos, didn't it?
Well, before Vista Ridge was Vista Ridge.
No, after Vista Ridge was there, wasn't this site that we're talking about tonight, wasn't it a series of apartment buildings that was proposed, or was that a nearby site?
No.
Across the street.
Okay, all right, that's what I was just trying to remember.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. That's where we met Chris.
I think the one you're thinking
Did you guys get to see the elevations, what the front of the building looks like? Can you just put that up, please, Cynthia?
Madam Chair?
John?
Yeah. Two questions that I have. One, when we were talking about the traffic study, the traffic study was done for weekend traffic only, is that correct?
No, it was for weekday, 4 to 6 during the day, weekdays.
Right, during the day and the weekend, right?
And the weekend from 11 to 2.
Okay, thank you.
Can you tell me why the traffic study wasn't done at...
Mary, we already looked, so this...
Yep, sir, we're back at the board now, and so we will ask the questions at this point. Thank you. Okay?
Second question I have, Madam Chair, is as far as the access in the back, I know we've had a lengthy discussion about that, and it seems to have boiled down to the fire chief asking to have that there. What is the procedure, the policy as far as the fire chief requesting something like this? Are there laws associated with it that he cites, or is it something that if he feels is necessary, he has to have put in? That's the question I have. So is there something that he's citing that's an ordinance or some legalities that we have that says that this access road needs to be there? Or is it something that he just sees, he looks at the plan and says, how are we getting back there? And that's how that developed. And secondly, to follow up to that, seeing that there is a lot of discussion around that, and that was based on the fire chief's request, who is responsible for going to him and having a discussion around alternatives for this?
Right now, I think we're going to have enough feedback that Brad and us, we're going to have all these points to continue dialogue and discussions, and again, go to the right people, the fire chief, and say, Kevin, what do you think about eliminating that back entrance?
So at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion from the board.
Okay.
Okay, because we have at least three issues that we want to have discussed further: the sidewalk, the three-way stop, and the back entrance.
I think we also had an alternate pedestrian access handicapped ramp for the residents of Vista Ridge, so they don't have to walk clear down to the main entrance.
And there was the additional buffer landscaping.
Yes.
And buffering. So Cynthia, do you have a recommendation before I take a motion?
No, actually, I was going to bring up the same thing that
Two
Chris
things.
did because I need direction on that. And I'm late into this whole process, so,
I think, I agree with you, Mary. I think there's enough unanswered questions and concerns and requests that we need responses from the applicant that I'm willing to make a motion to continue this to, what would be the next meeting, Cynthia? Be May, be the first or second meeting in
it's the
May.
second meeting in May.
Oh, wait a minute. That's too far up.
That's the way the board works. Continued plans go to the second week. May 9th.
Madam Chairman, make a motion that we continue these plans to the May 9th meeting.
Second?
Second.
Did you have a question?
I did. Don't you have 2 meetings in April?
Yes, but the second meeting is not for continued, it's for continued plans, but it's for continued plans from this month. So your plans would be heard again in May.
You're killing me on
It
time.
also requires
with all
10
due
days public
respect.
notice, and the next meeting is next Wednesday. So it's only 7 days away.
Yeah, but you can continue to the next meeting.
It needs to be
That's the next meeting in
more
April.
days.
The next,
Days from now.
for continued plans, for new plans that are heard on the first meeting of the month, they are continued to the second meeting of the following month.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections, abstentions? Chair votes affirmative. So we are continued till May 9th. This is your only notice that this plan is continued to May 9th. Thank you for coming, and thank you for your patience.
Procedural question?
If you come to the mic.
Somebody else said
I would go different. Liv, gentleman's trying to ask a question.
I learned of this meeting through a notice.
Excuse me, could you please be quiet, because we still have a meeting going on. Thank you.
I learned of this meeting through a notice from the condo association. I did not get directly notified. Wasn't I obligated to be directly notified by the applicant?
Andre?
When it comes to, by state statute, when it comes to a condominium association, it is not served individually, it's served to the association, and it's up to the officers to then deliver the message there from that
Even
point
though
on.
I'm an owner and I
Correct.
pay taxes to Londonderry?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
But New Hampshire says that's the way it is?
Yes, it
I
is,
understand.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who was it delivered to?
Thank you.
Because basically what they're going to do is take the address and name off the tax maps and send it, tax collector's database and send it to that address. So whatever that address is,
They put in a sidewalk, who's going to own it?
yeah, okay.
That means you're going to have to plow all.
Want to summarize and say that they did a good job. They met with all right people, they met the state statutes. And I think it's a matter of looking at what's ethical, and what infrastructure they should do for the town in return for all of the money-making potential that's in there.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so our next item on the agenda, and thank you, gentlemen, again. I appreciate that you are willing to wait. Clark Farm Industrial Center, DC Construction, Evans Family Limited Partnership, map 17, lot 45-3, application acceptance of public hearing for a 2-lot subdivision, Jacksbridge Road and Clark Road, zoned I-1.
Got the right paperwork this time, John?
John, could you please move the microphone back to you? Thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, there are 3 outstanding checklist items which have associated waiver requests. Assuming the board grants the waivers, staff recommends the application be accepted as complete. Item number 1, the applicant has requested a waiver to section 3.05, 06, 07, and 418B of the subdivision regs in item 10.7 of the subdivision application checklist. The applicant has not provided utility clearance letters because there is no construction related to the subdivision application. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the utility clearances are provided with the associated site plan application. Item 2, the applicant has requested a waiver to item 10.4 of the checklist to provide a traffic report. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the traffic report was submitted with the associated site plan application. And lastly, the applicant is requesting a waiver to items 7, 2B, D, F, and G of the checklist to provide utility services to serve the lot 45-3. Staff recommends granting the waiver because there is no development proposed at this time for lot 45-3. Again, assuming the board accepts or grants these 3 outstanding checklist items, the board could then deem the application complete.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, make a motion that we grant the applicant's request for the 3 waivers.
Do you have a second? Is there any discussion? Are there 4 waivers or 3 waivers?
3 waivers.
3. Are you looking at the, there's 2 different things. There's.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative.
Madam Chairman, make a motion that we accept the plan, application is complete.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. So your application is complete.
I just wanted to clarify for the applicant, because they are confused why we're taking these 3 waivers when there are 7 altogether. The other 4 waivers are just regular waivers and not directly associated with the checklist.
They'll be dealt with as
Yes.
part of the site plan. They're subject.
By way of introductions, I'm sorry, is it over to me? I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. My apologies.
Floor is yours.
I apologize for being a little anxious. By way of introductions, my name is Kevin Riggs. I'm the engineer of record on the project, President and CEO of Cole. We're headquartered out of St. Louis. And you have 2 items in front of you tonight, so just a quick understanding. Site plan's coming next. The first one, the subdivision, Earl Blanchard with Hayner Swanson is our surveying consultant. He'll make this particular presentation. However, I just want everybody to know that Scott Thornton with Vanessa is here for our traffic. Mark Hugeback, the architect from M+H Architects, is here, and Damon Zvok with BC Construction is also here representing them. I will do all the presentation on the site plan, we believe, but I just want to let you know who all was here tonight by way of
Okay,
introduction.
now, when I asked who was here, only 2 people raised their hands.
Earl and I both raised our hands. I
That's
just
what I'm
wanted-
saying, you're the-
For the record, if we need to review the tape, the rest of the crew here I can't speak for, but they are a great group, and we work with them all over the country, so.
Well, again, thank you for your understanding and patience. We
Not a
appreciate it.
problem.
Okay, so, John or Earl?
Do your presentation, please.
Thank you. For the record, Earl Blatchford from Hayner Swanson. The existing lot is a 43-acre lot zoned I-1 industrial. And it's lot 45-3, map 17. It has approximately 1,700 feet of frontage on Clark Road and about 525 feet of frontage on Jacks Bridge Road. Those roads intersect, but Clark Road is gated so that there is no access from Jacks Bridge Road to Clark Road or vice versa to segregate the industrial and the residential uses out there.
That's a Opticon actuated gate over there as well.
Really? So it's very easy for them to get in and out of, right? It just goes up when the fire truck comes by?
Press the button, correct.
Okay. Sorry.
The site is predominantly wooded. There is an old horse track in the front of the site in the vicinity of the proposed lot 45-5. There are some wetlands in the northwesterly corner and along the southerly boundary which have been flagged in the field by Bruce Gilday from BAG Land Consultants, and located by our field crew, and that's all shown on our plans. The plan proposes to a couple things. One, we're subdividing off and dedicating about 0.46 acres right adjacent to Jacksbridge Road. The purpose of that is that area currently is under easement. There's an existing public stormwater basin there and some site distance easements. And the applicant's preference was for those public easements really to be just incorporated into the right-of-way. So that's one purpose of the plan. And then the major purpose of the plan is to subdivide the lot, the remainder of the lot, into two lots, being new lot 45-3, which is about 33.8 acres, and then the new lot 45-5, which is about 8.8 acres, and is the site for the next application on the agenda. The property has municipal water, sanitary sewer, natural gas, and power and communications, all on Jacksbridge Road to service the property. There are, associated with the plan, in support of the site plan, there are two easements proposed. There's a cross-access easement off from the cul-de-sac at Jacksbridge Road, which will not only serve the lot 45-5, but will serve, in the future, will serve access for lot 45-3 and any potential future subdivision for that lot. And there is off the southwesterly corner of lot 45-5, our plan shows a 30-foot wide drain easement, and that's for the outfall of their drainage system onto the lot. So the landowner has granted that easement for them. And as kind of a housekeeping item, we are also adding a 20-foot drain easement on Clark Road, where there is an existing drain outfall from the public drainage system. Probably should have been in place prior, so that's something that we're adding to the plan now, so that it's kind of a housekeeping item that the town requested. And as was mentioned, we are requesting 7 waivers, 3 of which were the checklist items, and then which I believe Cynthia will go over, or do you want us to go over?
John will go over them.
Okay. That's pretty much the long and short of the plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board or anyone in the audience has.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'll go through the additional waiver requests. The applicant is requesting a waiver to section 4.01C of the regulations requiring the plan scale to be 1 inch equals 100 feet, where the plan is presented at 1 inch equals 150-foot scale for the master subdivision plan set. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the subsequent sheet shows boundary and topographic information at the 1 inch equals 40 feet, and the master subdivision plan sheet is intended to depict the entire proposal. The second waiver is to section 3.02C of the regulations to place conservation overlay district signs. Staff recommends granting the waiver because the lot to be developed per the associated site plan application is outside the conservation overlay district, and further development of lot 45-3 will require placement of the COD signs. Thirdly, the applicant has requested a waiver to section 3.09F of the regulations requiring driveway locations and site distance plans for the proposed subdivision. Staff recommends granting the waiver because there is no development proposed for lot 45-3, and the driveway design and site distance plan was provided as part of the site plan application for the new lot. Last waiver request is the section 3.03E requiring side lot lines to be no greater than 10 degrees from perpendicular to the right-of-way. Staff recommends granting the waiver because it complies with section 3.03D of the regs, preserving future redevelopment of tracts subdivided into larger parcels. Also, should Jacksbridge Road be extended in the future, this configuration would disappear. And there's one design review item. We recommend the applicant verify the DRC comments of the Planning and Economic Development Department are adequately addressed with the department. In addition, we recommend the applicant verify the DRC comments of the Heritage Commission are adequately addressed with the commission. Again, as Earl indicated, there are board action items, those being the 4 waivers that I just recited. And lastly, board information item, the applicant is proposing to dedicate additional right-of-way along Jacksbridge Road associated with an existing slope drainage and all-season site distance easement previously located upon lot 45-3. That's all I had.
Cynthia?
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. I'll go through the board. Chris?
Just a comment. No, you're in typo land today. But you had 7 waivers on the letter that we had.
Yeah, what it is.
The board
Chris,
action items.
Yeah, there's 3 of them are for acceptance.
3 and I counted 5 waivers total. 3 and 2.
Oh, it should be 7.
Or is the way this PDF is displayed?
Yeah.
You might
There were the 3
not be
that
on the right
checklist
PDF because there's
waivers.
2 PDFs.
Yeah, there
For the-
was 3 checklist waivers, and then I can see 2 subsequent waivers. that you
Yeah,
want.
I've got 7 on mine. I've got 7
It's
on mine.
not showing up on the next one. It's not showing up on these.
So one is
Yeah.
for the lot subdivision, and the other one is for the site plan.
Yeah. that's
There's
on
2
that.
different
The lot-
PDFs,
the lot
right?
ones, that's on the one, okay.
So we're on the
On the subdivision.
subdivision right
Subdivision,
now. Okay? And there are 7 there.
Yeah, these PDFs are really messed up. Okay, I'll trust you.
Good? Thank you.
Rick?
All set.
Anna?
All set.
Laura?
All set. Yeah, no issues.
Okay.
Good. Good.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Okay. Going back to the board.
Madam Chairman, make a motion, excuse me, make a motion that we grant the 4 additional waivers requested by the applicant based on staff's recommendation that they be granted.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. The waivers have been granted.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we conditionally approve the subdivision for, as soon as I find it,
17.
Evans Family Limited Partnership, noting all waivers granted on the plans and all precedent and general and subsequent conditions.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes affirmative. So you have a conditionally approved subdivision.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
So on to the site plan.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, there are no, excuse me, let me make sure I'm looking at the right one. There are no outstanding checklist items in order to accept this application. Staff recommends the application be accepted as complete.
So we're on, what, American Tire?
No,
We are.
Correct. Site improvements.
Okay, so we've already granted these 3 waivers, correct?
No.
No.
All you're doing is
Not
you're
needed for
accepting-
completeness.
you're accepting it first. There's no,
Accepting the application for completeness.
Okay.
correct.
Make a motion that we accept the application as complete?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
All set?
Good evening again, Madam Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, again, my name is Kevin Riggs with Cole. Unfortunately, the spring and my allergies came a month early in the Midwest, so my apologies for my voice, but I'll do my best to make it through it. The plan in front of you, as mentioned, is American Tire. We're asking for site plan approval tonight. Can we get to sheet, probably sheet 3, maybe? That'd probably be the easiest. The site itself, as previously described by Mr. Blatchford, roughly 8.8 acres. Again, access for the site off of Jacksbridge Road. To kind of frame the location in the area, again, we're immediately adjacent, or immediately across the street from the Penske development, and the name of the developer, thank you, Harvey Industries shares cul-de-sac access with us, if you will, off the end of Jacksbridge Road. The site itself slopes from Clark Road to, I'm going to call it, to the north and west, north being to the upper right-hand sheet of the, or angle of the sheet. The plan itself requests for about 120,000, excuse me, exactly, 125,000 square foot building, 120,575 square feet of warehouse, 4,485 square feet of office. The intent or the use of this particular building will be for distribution of tires, tires of all types, typically distributed to local retailers. The plan itself, as was mentioned, all access to this site will come off of Jacksbridge Road. Previously, the town is committed to Clark Road being limited access or zero access for the industrial area. The Board of Zoning Adjustment has previously granted us on February the 15th a variance to allow us to have our access road not be on our property. That's listed in the plan. That area is shown right here. The purpose of that was to allow for a road that could be extended in the future for the benefit of the remainder of the mother parcel. Again, that was part of the negotiation or discussions with staff. They felt that was the right way to go. So our access to the site currently for trucks is off of the end of that extension in this area here to a loading dock area, typical loading dock area, 130 feet deep, 60 foot of concrete, and 65 feet of asphalt. The car parking area access is off of here. As is also listed in there, we are asking for a conditional use for a reduction in parking. I believe that's part of what Cynthia will address as she gets to some of her comments. The drainage itself is the entire site is proposed to be self-contained for stormwater quality and for stormwater management, both quantity and quality. We already have an AOT permit approved by the state, and I believe we are down to some of the final minutia comments back and forth with staff on that. So both the drainage report as well as the plans have gone through a couple of rounds of review. The site itself, utilities all exist to the site. We have received utility letters from all of the existing utilities. Water is proposed to tap to an existing tap that was put in place off of Jacksbridge Road. So is sanitary sewer, electric, gas, and telephone all have services to the site. So we've already coordinated with them for the access to the site. The landscaping, if we could flip to that quickly, I believe that's going to be sheet 17, Cynthia. We'll blame this on the PDFs, too. Sure, excuse.
They're horrible.
Landscape plan is shown currently right now. This area in here, off the end of Jacksbridge Road, we're showing landscaping. We are showing landscaping adjacent to the parking lot and landscaping across the swale or drainage area from the loading dock area. Those are all internal or across from existing industrial zoned areas. As you're all probably aware, on the opposite side of Clark Road, from our development are at least I think three existing residences. Although it's master planned and zoned to be industrial in the future, there are existing residences. We did reach out to all three of those residents. We sent certified mail directly from me. We heard back from one. I believe you guys have some of that correspondence that was submitted to you. It was our intent to work as closely as we could with those people to be as sensitive as possible. Part of what we did was introduce alternating landscaping and complementary fencing across from the residences where we were going to gain the maximum amount of benefit for them. And then our intent is to reuse and save as much of the buffer along Clark Road as possible. So we hope you're comfortable with that in the outreach that we attempted from that particular point. And on that, while I'm there, I will say I've been doing this for 20-plus years, and our group works together in design-build scenarios across the country, and there are a few places that we've worked with as proactive and professional staff as you have in Londonderry. So you should all rest assured tonight that the citizens of this town are very well protected by a very, very professional staff. So it's very encouraging. That is not the case everywhere we go, so I don't say this every time. As I mentioned, we have received the DES AOT permit. We've been to Conservation Commission. We've received favorable response from them. Heritage Commission, we were in front of them 2 weeks ago and received favorable recommendation from them as it was dealing to some existing stone walls that we're going to stack and reuse within the site. There were some questions on the signage. That particular part of the plan will be handled separate. Utility letters I mentioned. Right now, we are into the New Hampshire DOT. We've gotten a letter into them. This particular site is was not part of the original Phase 1 of this subdivision. Phase 1 of this subdivision for Clark's Bridge, or for the Evans family subdivision, allowed for X amount of traffic to occur. Although we're not in that existing Phase 1, we fall within that. The traffic letter was submitted to DOT. They concur with that. There are some cleanup items that we've been made aware of as of 4:30 today, dealing with some commitments between the land seller and DOT. That we're under the understanding that will be taken care of extremely quickly. We believe that to be the only outstanding issue, and our initial responses that our traffic engineer has gotten back from DOT was they felt comfortable with that. So that's basically the presentation I have. Happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, members of the Design Build Construction team are here to answer any questions if you have any.
Did you want to see the building?
Oh, I neglected the building is a tilt-up concrete construction, and if you'll flip to the elevation, I think it's the last few pages. Our architect, Mark Hugebeck, who's sitting here, would cringe if I didn't mention how beautiful the building was. But as I mentioned, this is I guess I would term it a prototype building. We've built a similar building to this in roughly 8 to 10 places across the country right now, coming out of the ground, and received fairly favorable responses. It is a warehouse distribution center. We try to not take that lightly, though, and I think you'll find the treatments to it to be at least in keeping with or better than what you're seeing around town currently.
Cynthia, I know it's your turn next, but I just want to compliment you on, welcome you, first of all, to Londonderry, and compliment you on your presentation, and thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are 3 waivers. As we stated earlier, the applicant requests a waiver to Section 311G3, requiring 1 deciduous tree for every 15 parking spaces. And the parking lot is relatively small. There is perimeter parking, there are perimeter trees, as Mr. Riggs pointed out earlier, along the edge that would be facing the public right-of-way. And the lower end of that lot is set aside for snow storage, so staff supports granting the waiver. The second one is, again, addressing landscaping, requiring 10% of that area. They don't quite meet the 10%. It's something slightly less than, but for the same reasons, it's small enough that the perimeter landscaping does the same as if you had one additional island in there in terms of mitigating the heat effect in that location. The third is a waiver request to section 3.08B3 requiring 200 feet of separation from an existing driveway on the same side of the roadway. And staff supports granting that waiver because the proposed point of access is situated in a manner to potentially accommodate the future extension of Jack's Bridge Road. And they were basically because of the reasons that Mr. Riggs said earlier. They could not have access off of Jack's Bridge Road to Clark Road, and there is a detention basin in the way on the straight part that's outside the cul-de-sac. So that really left them their best and only alternative, and it makes sense in terms of future development of the remainder parcel. There's also the conditional use permit to reduce the number of proposed parking spaces, and staff recommends granting that because the applicant has demonstrated that the spaces that they've provided adequately accommodates their parking needs for this particular use, and they've based that on their experience for similar facilities around the country. So that's our recommendation.
Yep, Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'll just continue with the design review comments. Item number 5, the applicant indicates DOT driveway permit, DES alteration of terrain permit, Londonderry sewer discharge permit. Applications have been submitted for the project on the application checklist. We understand the DES the alteration of terrain permit has been recently obtained. We recommend the applicant obtain all project permits, include the permit approval numbers on sheet 3, and provide copies of all permits for the files. Item 6, we recommend the applicant address the following relative to the drainage. Item A, review and update the riprap calcs to provide the minimum lengths and widths required by NHDES, and also update the plans and details to indicate the proper widths and lengths consistent with the updated calcs. Item B, update the table 3 in the report to include the depth of flow and Manning's End in accordance with the regs. Item C, provide calculations to substantiate the weighted CN values, how they were determined, and how the runoff values noted on the post-development drainage area maps were determined for each subcatchment. In addition, review and update the pre-development calcs as necessary to clarify the weighted CN values and verify compliance with the regs, that being no increase in runoff. Item D, revise the pond routing calculations to eliminate all volume below the outlet structure invert and verify the detention pond is adequately sized and provides a minimum of 12 inches of freeboard above the 50-year storm. Item E, carefully review and clarify how the post-development analysis was conducted in the relationship of the subcatchment flows and ponds to the 2 points of analysis. Item F, provide a summary table comparing existing and post-development information to address each abutter and clarify the requirements of the regs. Item 7, we're requesting that they address the following on the cover sheet. It's mainly housekeeping items, providing a north arrow, updating note 2 to properly address the subject lot area for the new lot consistent with the subdivision plan. Notes 9 and 10 shall be updated accordingly. Also update the lot numbers to 45-5 versus 45-3 in the title block on all plans. Item C, update note 12 consistent with the index. Item D, note the zoning cases on the plan. Item E, provide the owner's signature on the plans. Item F, provide a signature to the professional endorsements on all sheets. Item G, update the planning board signature block to remove the date lines. This should apply to all signature blocks. Item 8, note the height and number of stories for the proposed building on sheet 3. In addition, clarify the plan references on the sheet. Item 9, update note 4 on the existing conditions plan. Sheet 4 consistent with note 5 on the cover sheet. In addition, please update the existing public sewer easement noted on the plan noted on the northerly side of Jacks Bridge Road accordingly. Item 10, review and update the grading on sheet 5 along the building, which this area had been updated. Notes for the turf reinforcement mat state tuck the mat under the curb, but it appears there's no curb in these locations. Please clarify for proper construction. We recommend the applicant clarify the text for the water line and source slope on the utility plans, sheet 6. Item 11, provide a planning board signature block on sheet 7, and also review and clarify the text on the plan, such as the parking lot dimensions. Item 12, update the storm profile number 2 on sheet 9 to indicate the invert in and out of the manholes. Label the invert out in profile 3 on the sheet and clarify the catch basin sumps in profile number 1. Also update the sanitary profile on sheet 9 to note private sewer versus public sewer consistent with the notes, and verify the sewer profile meets the approval of the sewer division. Item 13, the stop bar detail on sheet 10 should be updated to indicate an 18-inch width, and be white thermoplastic versus paint as typically requested. Provide a signature for the certification of the driveway site distance on sheet 12, and also include a typical trench detail for the gas line, underground utilities, and the plan set for proper construction. Item 14, update the index on the elevation and renderings plan to include sheet 20 consistent with the updated plan set and cover sheet index. And lastly, verify the DRC comments of the Planning and Economic Development Department and the Heritage Commission are adequately addressed as applicable. Again, board action items, the applicant's requesting 3 waivers to the site plan regs as noted in the letter dated March 15th, 2012. Secondly, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a deviation in the number of parking spaces required under section 31010 that is allowed under section 31011 of the zoning ordinance, and as noted in the letter dated March 15th, 2012. Board info items. Item number 1, the applicant's driveway design to serve the site is dimensioned as 30 feet, which exceeds a maximum of 24 per section 310.5 of the zoning ordinance. The planning board can specifically approve an extension to 36 feet. The board will need to consider the project driveway width as part of the project review. Lastly, the project is contingent upon the approval of a separate subdivision of lot 45-3 to create the subject lot 45-5 shown in the project plan set. The board will need to consider the separate subdivision approval as part of this project review. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. I'll go through the board. Chris?
So regarding the conditional use, regarding the parking, so you've talked with the applicant, so how many parking spaces will there be, and how many employees are we factoring that will be in that 4,000 office space, which I think is the only area that will have people in it, right? First will have tires.
Ideally, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the whole point, create jobs, right? There's typically about 40 employees that work on 2 shifts. There is a small amount of will call that can happen. For instance, large equipment users, Caterpillar users, things like that, they need a tire. They don't go to
they might
whoever go get that. Yeah. So they will call ahead, come pick that up. There's a will call. In this number of spaces is typically the number that we've been using in this prototype around the country. They feel very, very comfortable with it. You know, and working back and forth with staff to understand it. And so I don't say that, sir, to indicate that our goal is to say this is what we do everywhere, so this is what you're taking. We do it because we believe it's the best operation for us, and our intent is not to overpopulate the universe with pavement when it's not needed. We do have an out here. If this were to transfer to, let's say, somewhere down the road, a different user come in, there is still space on this site to add additional parking, and there's a substantial amount of trailer dock area that's really available for future parking. So we think that even long-term, we think that we're covered here, that if we could get back into that, we would need to. So
how big a differential is it? Are we talking, 10 spaces or 5 spaces or?
Ordinance requires 101. We're providing 46.
Okay, and is the 101 based on the size of the entire
Size of the building, right?
Yeah, okay.
Which is filled with tires.
Filled with tires, yes. We don't need any more tires in the parking lot.
Yeah, and point of reference, Commissioner, the office, under your ordinance requirement, your office calculations for 4,485 square feet require 15 spaces. But your warehouse requirement of 1 space for 1,400 square foot requires 86. So there's so much flexibility in what
So,
warehouse
right.
users typically would do. In the case that we're building a design build or a specific use here for a specific user, a specific build, those are always a challenge. Anybody who writes ordinances would know that to try to write an ordinance that's going to cover everything is very difficult.
I'm comfortable with that.
Rick?
Set. I'm all set.
Dana?
Yeah, just a couple of things. What type of trucks do you expect to be normally coming in and out?
Yeah, so every region's a little bit different because they serve different types of retailers, but what we typically would anticipate is 2 to 5 over-the-road trucks per day making deliveries in, and then somewhere between 10 to 20 what I'll call regional or local trucks that get their normal course of business. So I don't mean to say this is the only way it will happen, but this is typically, they get their orders, they load them up in the morning, and they leave. And that's their normal course. They typically don't go out, make a delivery, come back in, go out, come back in. So it's somewhere in that 10 to 20. There could be days when it's more, could be days when it's less, but that's kind of the rule of thumb for it.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm happy to see you here and looking forward to having you in the community. Don't take this the wrong way, it's not you, but this is more to staff. I've noticed the 2 applications we've had tonight, there's at least 3 pages in each of them of design review comments. And I do remember several years ago, we went over this, worked with staff to try to reduce the number of design review comments before we see the application. I know it's been a while since we've really done big applications, but can we move back to that format, please?
If I could address that, is the reason why we kind of moved away from it, because sometimes you'll see a number of comments, but they're basically housekeeping type of things, where before you can have 20 pages of comments, and they're basically, all right, we'll put a notice point on the plan, we'll do this, and they'll address those things, and it's nothing you want to come back to a planning board meeting to address, is that we just put these minor things. So we just look at more of the quality type of comments that we have as opposed to quantity. If the quality, even if there's 5 comments, but it has a lot to do with drainage of traffic, believe me, it wouldn't be here. So that's why we kind of went from the quantity more than the quality.
Yeah, but you were around when we went through that.
Oh, yeah.
So.
We went through, after 12 years, we kind of rode the roller coaster of what we wanted to see.
What category does design review item 1, the applicant's master subdivision plan is at a scale of 1 inch equals 150 feet, and does not comply with section 4.01C of the regulations, 1 inch equals 100 feet max? I mean...
We have to grant a waiver for that.
Well, not for nothing, but everybody here has spent, and I appreciate, John, you read very well, but why do we have to sit here and listen to this?
Well,
Why does the applicant, who's paying a lawyer, paying an engineer, got to sit here for a half hour? We all got it in front of us on a PDF. We could all have it on a piece of paper if we wanted. Why can't he say, I waived the reading, I got it? I can go into court, and if you were indicted for murder, and say, I waived the reading. I think that's a little bit more important than, the scale of 1 inch to 150 feet.
Actually, Tom, we're right with you. If
Yeah,
you don't want to...
Then let's just stop doing this, end the madness,
we
well,
agree with
I
you.
mean, we could save this guy a couple of $100 from, if they get out of here earlier.
No, agreed. Agreed. As a matter
That
of
would
fact...
require the lawyer to give the money back.
If the board remembers, we used to read the conditions of approval.
Oh, no,
at one point in
I
time,
do
and we got
remember
away
that.
from
Oh, yeah.
that. So,
Do remember.
this is the next iteration, we're
Right.
right, we're with you.
John, when does the applicant get this, though?
Now he's informal, he gets these tonight. But he has an idea that, as he's going through the design review process, again, it's a requirement of the checklist. So he's not going to provide it, well, then you need to ask for a waiver, Kevin. I can't grant him the waiver,
Right.
so he has to grant the waiver. The only people that can grant the waiver is you people.
I'm not
No,
saying that
we
we're not
have
going
no
to decide
issues
it,
with
but
the
why
waivers,
can't we
yeah.
just sit there and say, the last two of them, staff said, we recommend granting everything. Right, so when are we going to read that for? Why are we going to subject them to this?
Maybe
you know?
we could
At about
summarize
You know,
them.
10 o'clock,
Yeah.
your eyes start to glaze over.
Oh, trust me.
I think when
Maybe
we're talking
summarizing
about-
would be better, because I think the public needs to know what we're
Exactly. I think
doing,
we
but
can
maybe
say, well, yeah, there's
summarizing
10
it.
waivers
And we have the
boards deal with
specifics
it.
up here, if we
Right.
want to delve into it and, you know.
Yes,
And
I
the
think
public
we
can
could
get a
achieve
copy if they want. It's going to be part of, we can amend it to the minutes. I mean,
We'll
Absolutely
figure a
can.
way to, that we can,
I'm happy that you said that.
I mean, the only one who's really
Happy
got
for
an
the next guy.
objection is the applicant. If he wants to sit here and listen, you know, to you reading, you know. In about a half hour, you
like a
could read
bedtime
Ferdinand
story.
the Bull here, and nobody would know the difference. We'd approve the waiver.
I would know the difference. But anyway.
Yeah, but you'd be the only one awake.
I think summarizing is a good,
I agree that summarizing would be a good idea, but I think it's important when we're doing something like granting waivers that we know exactly
I
what we're
think
granting.
yeah, I
waivers
think
need
we
to
should
be-
have it
waivers
in
for.
front of us.
But
got
I
it in
think when
front
you're
of you.
talking about, you know, a sign
Comments?
box on, you know, page 17, that doesn't need to be read. you
Basically,
know?
the staff comments that you say that we just can maybe just summarize, and if
Right,
you
right.
agree to that,
That there's
I
three
think we can
waivers,
talk
they're
about
going to
that,
deal with, you know, the size of the papers and, you know, whatever they're going to deal with. And
I know how to do that. I did that
Okay.
in my past life.
All right.
so-
Oh, good.
So not
Yeah,
to
and it
hold you up
was-
any longer. Dana, do you have any?
No, that
All the
was it.
conditions in
Okay, you
accordance.
Didn't mean to create a
My
ordinance.
about that
for us.
extension that was going to get you into your property. Is that now a public extension of Jack's Bridge Road? Or, because it wasn't on their property, so who owns that? I've just never seen that before. I'm curious.
it's an access easement
Yeah.
from Evans' family.
It's on Charlie Evans' property, if you
Okay.
will. We have an easement to use that,
Okay.
to perpetually to access our property.
All right, I see.
The concept is at some point in the future, this could extend, and that's already set up to become public at that particular point.
Okay, thanks very much.
I read your correspondence with the, with one of our residents, and I applaud both yours and our staff's efforts to be proactive in not only satisfying his questions, but also, like I said, being proactive and coming up with solutions that clearly made him happy. So we thank you for that.
In full disclosure, I was city council president in a previous life in the town I live in, so
Yeah.
I've dealt with the challenges you all face, so I appreciate the comment, so.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win when, you know, you can work well with your neighbors and even the applications we heard before. I mean, I think it's really important. So, yeah, I as well, I agree that that's great. And I also appreciate that you thought out about extra parking, if that was to be a problem. Not too many people have a solution before we ask that question, so thank you for that, too.
John?
Very good presentation, thank you, welcome. I have no further comments or questions.
Let me just get to Scott and then I'll get to you.
I'm all set.
See how fast that was?
Yeah.
Andre?
I didn't want to hold up on
And I will make this quick, but I just want to acknowledge the efforts of Kevin Riggs and his team and Mark Tomasic, because sometimes as staff, when we have outside or out-of-state engineers come in and do it, we kind of say, oh, geez, you know, what we're going to get. And I got to tell you, Kevin and his crew had done a fantastic job, and obviously coupled with Earl Blatchford, who did the subdivision regulations, who are familiar with Londonderry's rules and regulations. I tell you, this was a seamless process. But I just got to take it back a little bit. About summer of last year, actually, yeah, 2011, is when I met the site selector, Jackson Kersey, and Daniel Lakota, representing the American Tire distributors. And they were just looking for a site in London, or I should say South New Hampshire. And Londonderry was one of the places they were looking at as a referral from the Department of Resource and Economic Development. So we went on a tour for a number of sites in New Hampshire and Londonderry, and then they leave. And then we just kind of maintained contact throughout the summer, and then from the summer to the fall, there was no contact. But I was presently pleased when Kevin gave me a call and said, boy, I'd like to sit down with you guys about a project in in Londonderry, and then it was just gratifying to hear that it was American Tire, so that particular recruiting effort paid off, and glad to hear, and the job that they have done with regard to this project has been exemplary. And I also got to mention that, as was mentioned in the last application, traffic was not something that was not overlooked. In this particular situation, there was a traffic study done back in 2005, which took in consideration Harvey Industries, the site that Penske is located on, but also a third site to be undetermined at the time. And so this represents that third site that was taken into consideration that led to the improvements that were done on the intersection of Route 28 and Sims Drive. So that work had already been done. This falls, their traffic study was shown to fall within the volumes that were used to determine the improvements that were going to be made on Route 28. Therefore, basically, this project was already taken into consideration. So you won't find a big traffic study because that was already done. And the DOT permit that Mr. Riggs spoke about, it is coming. I mean, the letters were, Mr. Thornton from the National Association wrote a letter indicating the traffic volumes. We concurred as staff with that analysis, and right now it really is an issue between DOT and the landowner with regard to the permit, but we know that the information is there, and more likely the permit will be issued. So overall, I cannot say enough that it's great to see an applicant that actually dots their I's and crosses their T's. There is a schedule upstairs on my dry erase board that we've held to and they've held to, and I'm going to go upstairs and put another done with regard to this meeting tonight.
I keep correcting Andre's English. It should say complete.
I like done.
And you all know that we have a wonderful piece of land right below the airport
I
that's
was going to say, bring that
perfectly
back.
available
Good.
for anybody else you want to bring to town, so
Happy
feel
to
free.
do so.
So, seeing no other discussion,
Go to the public.
public?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we grant the 3 waivers requested by the applicant.
Second.
But, well, let me finish.
You stopped.
With staff's recommendation.
We're streamlining here. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, chair votes affirmative. The
Madam
waivers have
Chairman.
been granted.
Let her finish.
You get used to that, Madam Chairman, huh?
Just another
It's gonna be
request.
Can I throw this at him?
Next
Excuse me, one more,
Just another request. If the board would be amenable to having a special meeting to sign the application at some time, if the...
We haven't approved it yet.
Well, I'm just saying, if you were to approve the application, if the board would be amenable to having a special meeting to sign the application in case that the improvement, or I should say the condition of approval, if it is conditionally approved, were not to be satisfied before the 11th, then our next meeting is May 2nd. We just wanted to make sure that if there's a time in between the 11th and May 2nd, that the board would be amenable to come in and sign the plan.
sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
Okay. Madam Chairman, make a motion that we grant the conditional use permit requested by the applicant based on staff's recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition, abstention, the chair votes affirmative. You have a approved plan.
Thank
No,
you,
you
Madam
don't.
Chair.
No, we don't.
Completed.
No.
No, we're
That
going
was
to do
conditional
conditional
use
approval.
permit.
Oh, that was just a conditional use.
That was
permit.
just,
Don't go anywhere.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we conditionally approve the site plan for American Tire Distributors, BC Construction, noting that all waivers granted on the plan, conditional use permit, all precedent and general and subsequent conditions be met.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done with that.
You now have a conditionally approved plan.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
To Londonderry.
Londonderry.
Start digging.
Okay, we have one more item, which is the Elliott Health Systems, Phase 4 and 5. The applicant has requested a continuance to June 13th, 2012. Do you want to say anything about that, Cynthia?
I'm sorry, I was distracted.
Elliot?
The Elliott continuance.
Yes, the Elliott, they went before the Heritage Commission a couple of weeks ago, and although the Heritage Commission fully agreed that it was a really good idea for the sign, rather than to be on Buttrick Road, be placed over on the Route 102 side of the property, they were not as enamored with the actual design of the sign. It changed significantly. It had interior lighting. There were a lot of things about the sign that they didn't like and requested that they go back and take another look at it. And the applicant agreed it would be better to go to Heritage in May, and then come back here in June. So that's the reason.
Make a motion that we grant the applicant's request to continue to June 13th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Okay, there's only one question I want to ask about the shops of Londonderry. One of the questions that the guy was going to ask before I cut him off was, why wasn't a traffic study done during the morning hours when kids go to school? You know, from, say, 7 to 9, which is when...
Actually, 6 to 9.
Or 6 to 9, when they expect the trucks to come in, and when we know that the buses and parents and people are leaving to go to work and school.
I mean, I can follow that question up with our traffic consultant, Andre Betty. Typically, we normally look at the worst times, you know, with regard to retail, which is PM peak hour, and that's where most of the, if not all of the design is predicated on, is that even peak hour. It doesn't mean that you ignore the morning. It's just that if you were going to base your improvements off the morning, you might have an insufficient improvements for the development. So that's the reason why you look at the PM peak hour.
Well, I think the point is not so much to just look at morning or afternoon. I think as the area is growing and we start developing, especially the area around exit 5, excuse me, we need to be a little more proactive and start looking at the complete picture. You know, and while I don't disagree that, you know, the PM is generally the greatest, as we grow, the AM is going to become more and more important. And I think we really need to start looking and taking that into consideration.
Additionally, if you're looking at in an area where right now it's primarily residential, and you're adding, you know, traffic with deliveries, that would be adding to that AM time, not the PM time. So,
yeah, it really depends on the
Can you just follow up
deliveries,
and
yeah.
get an answer for us?
Yeah.
Even if it's at the next meeting as opposed to waiting for May.
Okay, we can do that, yeah.
To that, too, I was a bit surprised we didn't get the traffic on the backside as well. So you don't understand your through traffic
You did it.
in the AM and the PM, too, right? Because that significantly drives what your through traffic is versus what just that entrance exit, you know, to 28, where you plan to have most of your traffic go anyways. But, you know, there is going to be an impact from the Londonderry backside coming through there as well.
Yeah, I know. Based on the traffic study, I know that 10% of the traffic goes that way. I mean, most of it goes the other way, but it's well noted. I mean, the only thing about studying in the morning, even with the additional delivery trucks, it's not going to register the way, you know, so say if you went from 5 trips to 8 trips because of deliveries, it's not going to register anything with regard to, you know, any improvements or whatever that's warranted. It's just going to let you know that there's going to be an increased traffic, as opposed to PM peak hour when there's a bunch of traffic as well as a bunch of traffic on the existing roadway. Then you're going to look at that and say, you know what, here's what you need to do in order to address it. So is this a matter of volume that you look at it when you're just looking at deliveries in early morning time as opposed to the PM peak hour times? But again, I'm going to ask the people that do this for a living and make sure I get an answer back for you.
Right, and not to, you know, I think the applicant has come a long way in dealing with the town. I really do. When they were here before, he was, you know, walking out the door saying, I'm never coming back to you if you don't approve me right this second, okay? And obviously, he's made some compromises, and he's worked very hard with us, and I appreciate that. But I also appreciate the fact that, this whole thing has to deal with Perkins Road, too. He cannot ignore Perkins Road.
No, agreed. No,
No?
agreed.
So I think that's another thing y'all have to make sure you bring up with him.
Well, I think the other factor is that it's impacting 1/25th of this town in population. It's 1,000 people live right across the street from that. That's a huge number of people that has a direct impact on. And the traffic down that street, that really is a racing track. I mean, I live on Perkins and Vista Ridge. People careen around that road. So anything to put in the discussion with the applicant about traffic calming around there would really go a long way to allaying, I think, those residents' fears about this.
Well, two things that we got to still keep in mind, and maybe some of you might have been around when the park and rides were being considered, and then the bus terminal was being considered. But when Vista Ridge Road was being put in there, and the improvements along Route 28 were being considered, they factored in the fact that Vista Ridge was there, and that Vista Ridge was going to provide that left turn for those people coming down Perkins Road, because it would be difficult for them to make, with the traffic coming off of I-93 and so on and so forth. It would be tough for them to make that left turn. So
It's very tough.
You take your life in your hands making a left
well,
turn.
that's what I mean. Is that so? That was factored in, and it was also factored in the fact that Vista Ridge was put in there as a measure to improve the left turn onto Route 28 because of the stoplight. And so it doesn't surprise me the fact that obviously people use that. It does surprise me though the volume of speed that they use in order to do that. But it was designed in order to take that traffic on to give people a means to make a left turn.
That was before the advent of a retail development that's going to have 1,000 car trips minimum a day.
Well, it was in anticipation of that. I mean, because again, that was...
We had expectation that that was going to be commercial.
That's going to be commercial. It was zoned commercial for a long time. I mean, prior to a lot of us, and it was acknowledged.
Was the expectation, Andre, that the outflow would be onto Vista Ridge or onto to 28?
Yeah, it was beyond the Vista Ridge. The reason why I bring that up is that, again, when the DOT was coming through with their proposal, they had a median across Route 28 as you come out of this Perkins Drive, but then there was such a clamor from the town and from the abutters and from the businesses around there that don't put in that median yet. Allow the left turn, continue left turns and right turns onto.
They get it to 4 lanes. They're going to have to put one in.
Exactly, but DOT said, all right, we'll do it. And the same thing goes for the other side, the east side of Route 28. They had a median from basically from the bridge, I-93 bridge, all the way to Liberty Drive extension. But then there was a clamor from the businesses there that said, no, don't allow the left turns to take place off of Auburn Road onto Route 28 going towards Derry, even though we know that's a bad situation. So the DOT left themselves a remedial action, meaning that if it's bad, then we're putting a median there. So my guess is sometime in the future, there will be a median near Perkins. Therefore, people, if they're going to take a left turn onto Route 28, they're going to have to go down Vista Ridge in order to do it. But that
Then
was,
considering that, we should push to have Vista Ridge widened out the whole length.
but then it induces
But then you're
traffic.
encouraging
Yeah,
it, so,
yeah,
I mean, it's a
inducing traffic,
catch-22. Either you make it, safe for everybody to go up it, or you leave it so that you discourage people from
I
going
think
up
you've got
it.
to look at some traffic calming mechanisms down
Right.
there.
Right. Ian, quickly, if you want to talk.
Hold on. I think there's a misconception that there's 1,000 people living in Vista Ridge. It's 240 units. You don't have 4 people in every unit. Those are 1 and 2 bedroom units. So I heard it from the people here. I just heard Chris say 1,000 people. I mean, there's not 1,000 people living there. I just wanted you to all be cognizant of that too, okay?
Thank you.
You can't have that many people in those units.
I want to say thank you to Maria for bringing up the Perkins Road, the box right at the beginning of the street, because it isn't always left clear when you want to take a left-hand turn off at 28 onto Perkins. And also another thing I noticed was Perkins is, Vista Ridge is not only used as a a way to get onto Route 28, taking a left turn onto 28 during busy times. It's also used by people to cut through from 28 to Perkins to Stonehenge to 28, avoiding exit 5 altogether. I've noticed increased traffic there. So that's another use for it. One question I had, but since you didn't ask if residents, only abutters could speak during the regular meeting, I had a question on the back end of the building. It's the -9 building, the one more southern building. I understand there's not going to be any trees in the back of that building because there's a big drop-off, and trees are down below in the wetlands area.
Well, there's a wetlands area, and then there's the natural tree area that's back there, and therefore, we didn't feel that putting more trees there where there's already existing standard trees was...
Now, there's a retaining wall there, correct? Do you know how tall the retaining wall is in the back of the building?
Not offhand.
We'd have
Okay,
to
just-
open the plans.
Pardon?
You really want to know?
Well, no, is it a very high building on the backside? I was
The
just
wall.
wondering if we'll be able to see all the rear end of the building from Perkins. Is there any shield?
No, not from Perkins.
I can't imagine
Okay.
that you'll be able to see it from
I
Perkins.
that's
parked
fine.
I pulled off of I-93 south, and I pulled into the dirt area to take a look at that site. I also pulled down to the breakdown lane on I-93 to see what the view is from I-93 into the site, and you're going to be hard-pressed to see that building with the standard trees that are there within the wetlands.
Okay, I just want to make sure you didn't get a view of the back end of the building from...
No, you can't, because there's no building there, but I'm just looking at the standard trees and kind of just knowing what the elevations are going to be, what that would look like, and so we had to provide feedback back to the applicant as well as to, whether or not the opacity, meaning that the visual view through the trees to the building is something that needed to be supplemented, but that's a pretty healthy stand of trees there.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.